All right, King Killers. In this episode, we cover chapters 82 through 87. We're going to discuss the aftermath of the draccus attack on Trebon, Kvothe's return to the university, and he calls the name of the wind against Ambrose. He then gets called against the horns, gets a promotion and a whipping, and goes into the underthing with Auri. We're also going to talk about Kvothe's hot pan temper, Ambrose's sick diss track, and an amazing scene in Teen Wolf, and how we plan on delivering future episodes. So sit back and enjoy.
Welcome back, you King Killers, to the most dominant and killer broadcast, King Killer Podcast. Tonight, I'll go by my favorite cartoon character, Finn from Adventure Time. Guys, it's Broadcaster's Choice tonight. Who's your favorite cartoon character?
Archer.
Yeah, Archer's good.
That's good.
As a kid, it was probably Daffy Duck. But now, maybe Peter Griffin. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll go with.
So the reason why I asked that, because I wanted to give our listeners a little insight into the depths of you guys' mind, because you may not know, but people say that your favorite all-time cartoon character is that one that you see most like yourself.
Yeah, I can see it. Archer is like a badass fucking CIA agent that's very confident in his abilities, but he's also very humble.
And I can see that humble for Tim as Daffy Duck and Peter Griffin.
Yeah. Stupid, drunk, slurs.
Funny. They're both very funny. But I can't. I was, I liked Wile E. Coyote and Daffy Duck. And yeah, they kind of create their own problems. I do happen to do that. So well, I see some resemblance there. Although Archer is not humble, he has zero humility.
Yeah, Dan, that can't be you.
You guys don't understand humility. You don't understand it. You know how hard it is to be like me and Archer and Kvothe and to be humble?
Do you know how hard it is to be this humble? You could never be this humble. No. Only me.
I do especially like how he abuses Woodhouse and makes him eat cobwebs.
Yeah, I have many butlers, and I've used them very badly. But they love me. They love me for it.
Yeah, it's probably your humility.
The first time I learned this, I was in like this class and a teacher's going around, and I said, it's obviously my favorite character is Homer Simpson. It was like, 15 years ago. And then she started cracking up and then went through the rest of the class before she let me know that she was laughing at my face for thinking that I was like Homer Simpson.
Nice.
She was a real bitch.
Fuck that hoe.
Well, anyway, you want to get started on 82?
All right.
So, chapter 82, Ash and Elm. Now, Kvothe has just killed the draccus and got knocked unconscious. He wakes up in an inn with tons of bandages. He quickly tries to leave to check on Denna, but is impeded by the innkeep. Kvothe uses sympathy to scare him, then heads to the cliff where he left Denna, but she's not there. He returns to Trebon and is immediately hurried away by the mayor and the constable for questioning. Kvothe poses as coy and aloof as he learns that the community buried the draccus. He then asks about what was found on Mothin Farm. He later meets Nina, who's seen the pot from the farm, and offers her a false charm to disarm her burgeoning terror towards the Chandrian. Your thoughts, gentlemen?
Yeah, before we dive into that, one thing I wanted to bring up, because we talked about Rothfuss with the holes and the sympathy on the last episode. And so, I was thinking about it more. And so I was, one of the things like I looked up is slippage, which I think would be where Rothfuss could go to kind of close up that hole. and he could make slippage be some aspect of the answer for why you couldn't, make a bad link between something and just like smash the draccus under, the weight of a mountain or something along those lines. Because he talks about when he's having a discussion with Manette about slippage, Manette says thermal slippage is fairly common though. Now kinetic slippage, he raised his eyebrows appreciatively. 20 years back, some damn fool Eltha got drunk and tried to lift a manure cart onto the roof of the master's hall on a bet. Tore his own arm off at the shoulder. I'm not sure that this would answer it, but I think that's where Rothfuss would go. It doesn't explain why you couldn't do this. It explains, like, if Kvothe made a bad link between, like, a rock and the draccus, and he was holding that rock where you could see, like, the rock would rip through his hand or pull his arm off or something along those lines. But it doesn't explain exactly how the slippage would work, where it would prevent you from doing it completely. Where if you did it, it would be dangerous. If you weren't like holding the rock or trying to lift something up, if you just linked those things and you didn't try to lift them, it's still not clear to me, how slippage would be a deterrent. But I
thought about it a little bit. I thought about it a little bit more too, Dan. It's as far as slippage goes, I think of resistance and electricity. So, like, with your toaster, when those heating elements get hot and glow red, you're actually directly transferring your energy and turning it into heat, right? So the slippage there is the resistance that's in each one of those little heat elements. So what you're saying is, I understand what you're saying, but I'm going to agree with what you said last week and say that if the slippage is comparable to resistance, where the energy transfer is direct, there can't be the energy can't be created. So even though you have something that's heavy, you can't make it more heavy by having slippage. It would make it less heavy, because the gravitational force is the original force. And so when you try to transfer that to another object, your slippage would only make it lighter.
But that energy has to go somewhere. So like the whole point of it, like with the slippage on, thermal slippage is like if you're trying to heat something, that energy is lost. The reason the slippage is dangerous is like what slips out, some of it goes into the sympathist, so he could set his own blood on fire. He could burn himself to death. And so I could see something where he would. I just would need it explained. I would need to know how the slippage would work with kinetic slippage, where if you had like a really bad link where that lost energy or whatever goes back into you and would like crush your own body or something. Because
I was gonna say, it seems like the answer would be, well, he'd crush himself as he crushes the draccus.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so I guess I could see that, but he's not using himself as the force, right? So
yeah,
it seems like you could say that, but it doesn't I don't see a direct connection why it has to travel through him, because he's the one creating the link.
Yeah, correct.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because it doesn't say that guy through kinetic slippage, like it was just his arm got tore off at the shoulder.
Yeah.
Like, so why just his arm? You would assume because he tried to lift something with his arm, and
that but he's
slippage,
holding the thing that he was using for the link.
Yeah. So the added weight just ripped his arm off. It was made it too heavy. But it the fact that it didn't like crush his body or something along those lines makes me think that he would have to still has to come up with some explanation, because it's like when he creates a bad link between the coin and the chalk, there's no mention of like he felt pressure on his body or something along those lines.
Yeah,
there's no mentions of that. It's just the only mention of kinetic slippage is that guy's arm ripping off, which would tell you that he was trying to lift something with that arm, not that it like all the slippage went into his arm and just rips his arm fell off. Like that doesn't seem to be a likely explanation. So I still don't know how you could resolve the issue, but slippage would have to be the area that he would go. It's just he would have to tighten up slippage and make it make sense why it would work as a deterrent for doing those kind of things.
Does the object have to be physically in his hand?
No, because like he can light a candle and stuff. He doesn't have to be holding.
Well, he's drawing on. Yeah, I guess that's true because yeah.
But even still, you could just put your finger on top of a rock that's on the ground, even if you have to touch it. You wouldn't have to.
The rock would be pulling downward, not pulling him downward.
Yeah, you wouldn't have to like hold it. You could just like touch it. So
it's beneath his hand. So if it pulled down, it would just pull to the center of the earth. It wouldn't pull him down.
Yeah.
Right.
So, yeah. So I still don't. And then the other thing I thought of that I text you guys on is why can't Kvothe link the air outside with the air in the draccus's lungs like he did to himself and suffocate the thing?
I thought about it, but doesn't he blow on his fingers?
No, he just says a word. He says the binding.
The word to bind.
Yeah, he says the binding, and then he blows out air. And when he blows out air, a gust of wind also blows because he.
So he blows out air, and that's what binds his own air to the air outside.
The binding was the word, the alar and the word are what created the link and the sympathetic link. And so when he blew out the air, that was just utilizing the link that he created to make the air. That didn't like solidify the link or anything. The reason when he blew out air, the reason there was a gust of wind behind him is because he had already linked the air in his lungs to the air outside. So when he blew, the air outside also blew. And so I see. Yeah, so he had already created the link. So you would think like he would be able to do that to the draccus because it's just air. It's not like the air is not a part of the draccus. It's not like blood where your body is creating the blood inside yourself, so it's a part of you, or your skin or your hair. Those things are a part of you, so you could see where you would need those things to make a link. But why wouldn't you be able to link air? Because you can take a fire from a brazier and make a link with a candle's fire and a brazier's fire, because those are just two elements. They're not a part of you. You don't need either one to be able to link them. So it's in the same way like how he puts out the fire, like he links the fire on the shingle to the others, and then when he stabs the shingle underneath the water, it's not like he had to. He had to be holding on to the fire the whole time. They were still linked even when he's not holding them. So why can't
once he's made the link, it's there?
Yeah. So why can't he? Link
and he had he had the scale. I mean, if it did require that, he had the scale. He could have done it with the scale.
I wonder. Well, I was gonna say perhaps it hadn't occurred to him, and this is something he thinks of later.
It's the only explanation.
But the problem with that is all of these guys that have gone through the Arcanum. Well, I don't mean to say that he would be the first that would think of this, because you would think someone else has thought to do something similar to this. But we only have what Rothfuss is giving us in terms of the history. We haven't heard anybody else do this other than Kvothe attempting it and nearly killing himself. But if he can do it to himself, it seems logical that he would be able to do it to somebody else.
You would think it would be like if it's a possibility, if you can do this, if Rothfuss doesn't have an explanation why you couldn't do this, that when you would go to hunt animals and that kind of thing, that this would be a common technique that would be taught to easily kill an animal without having to fire an arrow or anything at it. You just suffocate it. And so you would think this would become common knowledge, after a period of time, as a good way to kill an animal at least. And so
It's
it's hard to understand why Kvothe wouldn't. This wouldn't be something that Kvothe would think about. Like, you would think this would just be if this is possible, you would think it'd be common knowledge within all Arcanists that they have the ability to do this. And Kvothe did it to himself, so he certainly knows that it's possible to do it at least to himself.
Well, I was going to say, also, talk about pranks. Pretty good prank to do this, like, sort of in reverse, where you just fill up Hem's asshole with air.
Yeah.
While he's teaching a class. Give him bubble guts
all
real
the
quick.
gas. All the gas in his fucking... in his intestines.
It'd be pretty funny to watch somebody, because
Yeah.
Start grabbing their gut, bending over, you're just
Severe
sitting there
cramps.
giggling.
Dan, no sound effects? Like it go in and out, like... And Quote's just standing there in the back of the class with his hand over his mouth, like... As him's up there farting himself.
But I definitely want to know more about slippage, and I want to know why you couldn't do something like link air in someone else's lungs and to the air outside. Why would it have to be air in your lungs? There needs to be another layer of information on sympathy. I think he needs another layer on sympathy
we need
to make
more,
these things clear.
We need more about the restrictive nature of the linkages, of the ability of the individual who's doing the sympathetic bindings, what those restrictions are, why you can't pants people.
Yeah.
Or all of it. I mean, all of kind of what you're bringing up. I mean, especially the draccus. I mean, that brings up a huge element in terms of he's got a scale. Can he not move him around because he's so big? Is that what we're going with? Because we've heard of people being able to do things that seem to be beyond what would be feasible. I mean, what a Loden does with the at the rookery. I mean, it's otherworldly. Now I know he's not a Loden, but still, I mean, he's filled his own lungs with air. It didn't occur to him.
Now that we're talking about it, I'm thinking back to when that occurrence when him and Kvothe are on the wagon and he binds his air to his lungs to the air outside. Prior to that, he's talking about how he would bring down a bird, and it's real easy if he's got a feather. Again, he's got a scale. Why can he not? I don't know, cut the scale in half or break it?
Yeah.
Well, he does talk about cutting the scale, and that would take pressure. Just like when he tries to cut he binds 5 arrows, bow strings together. He combines like 5. He does a sympathetic link with 5 guys that are shooting arrows at him when he's fighting the bandits in the woods. And so he links 5 of their bowstrings to the bowstring that he has. But when he was cutting through it, it was like sawing through like a log. So it wasn't just like cutting a string anymore because
I see. So
because
that one,
so like
the increased tension,
to be able to stab through the scale, to link the scale to the draccus with a moment and a scale, and then to like poke, it would be very difficult to even stab through it. And so he's not even sure that he would be able to do any
damage.
And then he also talks about, like, I wouldn't know if it killed it. I wouldn't know what happened to it because it's not in my sight. So he does think about that.
Well, and then he sees what the tree does to him, and he's like, dude, there's nothing I could do to bring force on this thing.
Yeah. So as far as that kind of force doesn't make sense.
Except for the negative sympathy you're talking about in terms of wielding the weight of a bad link. Yeah, that's a real, but I mean, that's kind of the problem that's come up a number of times. Because you talked about that, I think originally it popped up, if there's a guy in a lake swimming, you don't like him, why can't you just get him to the bottom of the lake? By
so what you got,
his shorts or whatever he's wearing.
What you're saying makes sense, but how can, if he does explain it away and says, okay, yes, let's say that he says yes, there's a way you can do it, but whatever. Where does that energy come from? The energy of slippage that I'm assuming that they talk about when the guy ripped his arm off. If energy can't be created or destroyed, where did that energy come from? The energy of the slippage. You see what I'm saying? Because the way I would think about it is if you're trying to lift a car with a penny by linking the two, and you use a bad link. Okay, you lift the car by lifting the penny, but because it's a bad link, you rip your arm off, right?
Yeah.
But at that point, the slippage is it's that your link is ineffectual.
It seems like a bad
force
calculation.
Is from the right. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like the force is you wouldn't rip his arm off because he wouldn't be able to lift it in the first place.
Yeah, unless like you were already holding the penny, and then you made the link, and then they pulls your arm off. Is just like a quick sudden pressure on your arm.
But why wouldn't that be a good link? Because really, all he's done is made the penny heavier instead of the car lighter. That seems like a good link and not a.
It's a bad link in the sense that they're not. If you're trying to find something that has similarities to each other, the more dissimilar they are, the worse the link. So in that sense, it's a bad link. But if the purpose was to make the penny extremely heavy, yeah, I mean, you could say that's a good outcome, but it's a bad link because they're so dissimilar. And the more dissimilar something is, the heavier, as far as like linking two objects to each other, the more dissimilar they are, the heavier the objects are going to become when you link them.
Yeah, that opens up a whole other can of worms, but that's right. We'll move on if you want. If you want to,
it's interesting.
I don't think we'll get.
It's interesting to tease out, but yeah, we can't come to a conclusion. We need more information. That's the main.
But I just mainly wanted to bring up. I think slippage would be where he would go with it, and it's just needs to be more information on slippage to make it make sense why you would limit you in that way.
Yeah,
but
it's a good find, Dan.
Yeah, and as far as this chapter goes, he wakes up in the bed, beat to shit, fucking, and all bandaged up. They bandaged up all his wounds from all the past few days, the different injuries he had. And I like that when the girl comes in, he's like young, pretty, unassuming, the sort of the girl that always worked at little inns like this, a Nell. And then when he goes downstairs, the bar guy's like, "No, what in God's hell are you doing letting him up? I swear you haven't got the sense that God gave a dog." So he was right. Her name is Nell, which I think that hints at his naming ability. That these times when like he's able to name the horse, as far as he names it one sock, even though he thought he was naming it something else, or Auri or Nell. There's a number of situations where I think these are demonstrations of his naming ability.
He names Nina later too, the little girl.
Well,
he knows her name, but he guesses her nickname.
He guesses her nickname, which is kind of a sort of different thing. But I like how the chapter begins in the sense that we get reminders, because I know I mentioned this last episode, but you get a reminder of like how much has happened in the last 3 days. All the old injuries, Ambrose's thugs trying to kill him, knife wounds, like all that stuff. And then I love and we've gotten this before with some of his, it's been quite a while, which is why I like it, but he starts diagnosing his injuries. So it reminds you, because I need reminders and stuff like that, because I'm like, oh yeah, the Medica, oh yeah, the university. I mean, you're away for long enough and so much happens when he's gone that, at least for me, it's like, oh yeah, all that stuff, all that background, all that knowledge that he has. It's kind of nice to get those little reminders in there.
And it's letting you know that there is a lot of stuff going on that he's not talking about. Like there's a lot of stuff he's learning that he's not discussing.
Yeah.
You know, that he's not talking about these classes that he's going to. So like we get, you know, the university, we get a handful of scenes at the university, but he's there for month after month after month. And so he's continually getting more and more educated. And so he does touch on different knowledge that he's accumulated a number of different times on sympathy and the Medica, and also with Kilvin in the workshop. So there's a number of times where he hits on that he's gaining information, gaining knowledge, gaining power as time's going on.
Yeah, in regards to this Nell character, I just love the description, the sort of girl who spent her life in a perpetual flinch.
Yeah.
Because the innkeeper had a temper and a sharp tongue. It's like, you can picture that immediately. Just that girl that's always just like, you know, just being abused constantly, verbally. So she just, you know, constantly like kind of she can't engage because she's constantly like in fear. It's a very short description, but very, very effective.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then, it's nice that Kvothe kind of, when he comes downstairs, having known that and proven that right then and there, as the innkeep starts giving her shit for letting Kvothe out, Kvothe dominates him and scares the shit out of him.
Yeah.
So
we also get the greatest joke in either book, and in this part when he goes, "Lord, boy, does your face hurt? It's killing me." He chortled at his own joke. It's a hilarious joke. That's just a super funny joke. Like, because what he's saying is like, fine. Does your face hurt? It's killing me. Because he's saying like you have an ugly face. That's the joke. Did you get it?
Yeah, usually I'll go for jokes like that, but that one I didn't like.
Oh, well, this is
I've never heard it before either.
It was maybe you didn't understand it. Let me try to explain it again. So
that usually very makes jokes better. Go ahead, Dan.
Well, I was going to say, this is very much in Fitz's wheelhouse. The joke needing to be explained. Very much his deal. But yeah, I was going to mention right before that. I was going to mention right before that, yet again, and it doesn't last long, but yet again, Kvothe is shoeless. I mean, it happens so freaking often, and it doesn't happen. I mean, in normal. And now I'm not doing things that Kvothe's doing, obviously, but how often do you find yourself shoeless? I mean, it doesn't happen on a regular basis for most people. But he's always kicking his shoes off.
It comes up with the loading too, like when he gets out of the on the horns, and Elodin comes out with him, and notices, Elodin's just walking around with no shoes. Got his master's robe on and all that kind of shit, but he's walking around barefoot.
Well, and not only that, he's barefoot and his feet are like nicely tanned.
Yeah.
Which means, he goes shoeless quite a bit.
That's not necessarily true. He could be tanning.
He's rubbing like spray tan all over his feet.
It's bronzer.
So that makes a lot of sense. Elodin is vain, which there's no other way.
A very
that
specific type of vain. Like, he doesn't care about his looks or how he dresses. He just likes for his feet to be brown. He likes nice bronze tan on his feet.
That's
nice
so
pedicure.
Absurd.
Yeah, really takes care of his feet.
Maybe get some sparkles on him.
Huge feet guy, but only his feet.
As much as this barkeep is really kind of a piece of shit, I can't help but kind of like him when he calls Kvothe, you mouthy little swagger cock.
Yeah. Same thing. I believe him also called him.
Yeah, he did at one point.
Swagger cock.
That's a great. It's a great little label to throw at somebody.
Yeah, I hope someone calls me a swagger cock someday. Listen, you little swagger cock. That's right, I am a swagger cock.
I'd swagger it right at him.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, if you don't show me a little respect, I'll sit you down and tie you to a chair until the constable comes. Then Kvothe just sets that coin on the bar and fucking starts having it sizzling and bubbling up the varnish on the fucking bar and scares the shit out of him. And he's like, now fetch me what I asked for, I said, looking him in the eye, and a skin of water too, or I will burn this place down around your ears and dance among the ashes of your charred, sticky bones.
So I gotta tell you this part, and then another part later in the chapter when he gets up and goes at Ambrose in this way. It reminds me of when Michael J. Fox in Teen Wolf is at the bar, and he puts the money down, and he's like, "Give me a keg of beer," and his eyes turn red. Did you guys get that at all?
I don't remember that scene.
No,
reread it. It's just like it. Exactly.
I did not get that at all.
It's a book too.
Yeah. No, I mean, what was it? A movie?
Yeah.
Okay. I did, however,
with Michael J. Fox.
Michael J.
You don't know it's a movie, as you're saying, like Michael J. Fox.
That was his name in the book.
Jesus. I did, however, like those two parts quite a bit, especially when this fucking dude is like, "I'll tie you down," and all that. I really wanted Kvothe to come right back at him, and he did. And he threatened to kill him, and it's fantastic.
Yeah, he always has. His threats are always very poetic, elaborate and poetic.
I mean, the innkeep
dance among the ashes of your charred and sticky bones.
Well, it's funny too because the idea at the Arcanum is we need to fly under the radar. When we travel in these other places, there's a reason why they're scared of people like us. And Kvothe's like, yeah, that's stupid, blah blah blah, but he gets what that's about. And then once he's angry and in a position like this, he didn't give a shit. He throws that sympathy at him like a freaking dagger.
That guy, it was like, I will tie you onto a chair and then let the constable come and deal with you. And Kvothe's like, oh yeah, I'll murder you, and I will murder you to the point where I burn your body to ashes, and then I will dance on your charred and sticky bones. Like, well, okay. This just got ramped quite up a lot.
Yeah, I feel like in a poker game, Kvothe is all in every hand.
Yeah.
Every single hand comes around. Anybody raises, all in.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then when someone says, "I think you're bluffing," Kvothe will go, "I'll watch your family burn."
I will eat your eyeballs like fucking bubble gum.
Yeah, he is. Actually, there's a few points in here where it is like, dude, he is basically built for confrontation. He thrives in those confrontational moments. We especially get that, on the horns, but we'll get there.
Yeah, and then he goes looking for Denna, and so she's taken off, and he sits there for a long while just waiting, thinking that maybe what does he say, that maybe she left to go tend to nature. So that's a possible hint at a restroom break, or it means like she's like, sweeping up the dirt on the ground and just tending to nature. And
that's what I thought.
A call of nature,
like picking up sticks out in the forest.
Nature was calling for her to kind of clean up a little bit, straighten up.
So she's like a Smokey the Bear of this world. Yeah. Okay,
that's how she tends to nature.
So, but it's another possible hint at a restroom break. At least they give a slight implication, but it's not conclusive because, like I said, it could be that nature was calling for her to clean up, tidy up a bit.
Yeah, Rothfuss likes leaving us in the dark on that one. I think that's his favorite thing in these books, is to really dangle over us. They're always going to be questioned. Are they really peeing and pooping?
Yeah,
that was like his main. I think that was his main.
He's always dancing. He's always dancing around the edges of it.
I think that's the main mystery that he wanted to weave for everyone, was to leave those in the dark on.
More than anything else. I don't know what you guys are talking about. She was out there picking up sticks, returning them to the trees, tending to nature. How is that misleading?
Call of nature.
Yeah, and then nature's call. Nature was calling to her to tidy up. Then he ends up going back and he climbs up onto the roof. He gets his boots back, which I was trying to think, like, when he lost his boots in the last episode. I couldn't remember. I was like, man, does he get his boots back, or does he got to go buy another pair of shoes?
Yeah, I couldn't.
This dude's broke.
Yeah, I couldn't remember either. I assumed they'd be gone because of everything that was going down, but apparently not.
Yeah.
Luckily, it was one of the roofs that did not burn up and cave in.
Yeah, and he sees also that where he made the heat eater, like once the water kind of boiled down and evaporated, that once it reached below that, the fires must have picked back up. And, so he gave them time to save somewhat of the city, but it had a limiting effect to it because eventually that water boiled below where he put the heat eater with the knife with the charred
shingle. If you
shingle.
think about it, really probably didn't take very long for it to do that either. I mean, if you think about how much heat that is, how quick that water would boil off.
I'm glad he threw it in there because it does give us that tangible limitation to the heat eater he creates. Plus, it's not like he just saved the day. I mean, there's limitations to what he can do, and but he did give them time.
And that's why I would like to ask Rothfuss about like the things like the sympathetic links and that kind of stuff and slippage, because he goes into such detail. Like not a lot of people are going to be thinking like, okay, so if he puts this thing under the water's going to be heat up, so it's going to evaporate. So I have to explain that that's what happens here. And then that and the fire's built back up. So he adds that stuff in, these little touches of realism to where it's clear that he thinks about these things. He tries to fill holes. So I that's where I'm like, not necessarily that these things are holes, but it's I don't have the answers to them, and I think Rothfuss has probably thought about these things.
Well, a situation like this also, he's thinking out the end conclusion of the action at hand, right? So some of the other examples, they're more, I don't know, gaping holes, I guess, in terms of, and then a lot of them seem to be either unintentional or he knows, he just, oh shit, I don't know how to close this up, or that's what book 3 is going to be all about. It's going to be all about bathroom breaks and closing those gaping holes.
Yeah. Hopefully. Then he goes back in and, he runs it. He talks to the mayor and the constable, and they all knew beyond all certainty that the draccus was a demon, a huge black demon breathing fire and poison. If there had been any slim sliver of doubt as to that fact, it had been laid to rest when the beast had been struck down by Telu's own iron.
I like Kvothe's attitude here, playing, aloof and coy and kind of like Grey Del Cinti, just keeping it quiet and let him think what they want to until he gets the information out of them that he wants.
Yeah, and when you think about it from the perspective of the townspeople, this is like some biblical fucking shit went down. Like a fucking demon, a gigantic dragon-sized demon is rolling through their town, and Telu fucking saves them with the iron wheel crashing down on the demon. Their fucking religion saved them. Like this is gonna be like, in 10 years from now, Trebon is gonna be the most religious, Telu-fearing town on the fucking planet. Because to them, they just witnessed a biblical event.
People are going to start taking pilgrimages there.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, you're right.
Touch the wheel.
This is massive, because the religious imagery is so clear, at least to the way they see it. So, I mean, one route Kvothe could have gone here is he could have just started a evangelist group.
He could have started up his own cult.
Yeah, for real.
Like they saw him standing on the church, like raising his hands like he was praying, and calls down the fucking iron wheel to smash it on the dragon, the demon, and save the entire town. Like, so yeah, he could have started a cult in Trebon.
He should have. He would have made a little bit of money that way.
Yeah. Yeah, there's more money. What's Creed say? There's more money being the cult leader, but more fun.
Yeah, he says
it's
fun to be a leader, a follower.
Yeah,
there's more money.
More
in
fun to be a
leader,
follower, but more money being the leader.
Could have been the David Koresh of this ragtag group here in Trebon.
Yeah, and then they of course, because they think it's a demon, they dig the pit and burn it and bury it. And so, like, Kvothe sitting there thinking, if they just threw away a king's ransom, fucking because of their superstition and thinking it's a demon, caused them to just throw away a extremely valuable fucking commodity.
Yeah, it's pretty great that they're also like showing their hands. So I got the blisters too. I did it. We all did it. They're all just like, patriotic about it. And it's just like, you fucking rubes. Like, you bunch of rubes. You have no idea what you just did. But, yeah, I mean, it makes sense. Like Fitz likes to say, true to life. Right?
Mm-hmm.
He definitely follows suit there.
Yeah, very, very true to life on how to deal with demons. That's what you do when you run into demons.
I was wondering, so he keeps insinuating, or he keeps just boldly stating, or just clearly stating, that he was creating a lot of mystique around himself having got up and recovered so quickly. Because, I mean, the priest or the local sawbone doctor, whoever it was like, he might not wake up again. Right? So, but the fact that he's up, walking around, and, like, getting stuff done and whatnot.
Well, and he just burned the table with a coin. And then the next day when he comes down and he's taking all the bandages off and they see that he's not even hardly hurt, and they think like because he's so bandaged up, and then now he's walking around looking fine. They're thinking like, Jesus Christ, man, this guy recovered from all of his injuries in a day. And it's just because they put so many bandages on him that were unnecessary.
Well, I was going to say, though, is there something to how quickly he heals? Is there something actually to that, or were they just misjudging his injuries?
No, he says it. They were just because they bandaged all of his injuries. Like, most of them were not necessary to bandage. Like, they bandaged up
like
his
whole
hands,
his
shit,
fingers and everything.
Yeah. So, like, he didn't need it. But, I mean, like, when he gets hurt, he stays hurt for a while. It's not like he's...
Yeah, I guess that's
true. The injuries stay with him. I mean, he got stabbed 3 days ago, and that's one of the things they were bandaging up. So it's not like he's recovering in a day, or like when he jumps out the window, when he breaks into Ambrose's. Yeah, but when he like jumps out the window and fucks up his knees and shit, falling out of the windows at Ambrose, cuts himself. Like, he's injured for a while from that kind of shit.
Yeah, that cuts him down for a while.
I really like. We get to witness his legend grow in like bars and pubs, and I like when he comes back here and they're all standing around the bar looking at where he burned the bar, and like he sees them, they're kind of scampering off. They're like hey, I think it was him. Instead of I like stuff like that where you can see the tangible evidence of his reputation growing, which, I mean, for obvious reasons. I mean, everything that's going on here, what the town just went through. Who's this guy? What did he do? It's pretty great.
What's interesting too is like this town, like the story in this town, he never gives them his name, so he never says he's Kvothe. Yeah. But eventually, after he goes and sees Florian and all that kind of stuff, when he gets back and they're telling all the stories, eventually the Trebon story gets swept up into being credited for that he did it. So, like, this town eventually hears the story of the red-headed hero who had sex with Florian and, saved 2 girls from ogres and all this kind of stuff, and, learned from the Adem. And So eventually they put it 2 and 2 together. They were like, oh, that redheaded fucking dude that fucking saved our town, that was Kvothe.
That's been doing everything.
And so
yeah.
it doesn't even get tied to Kvothe until later on. And obviously the way that had to have happened was people put 2 and 2 together after he became famous, and then they realized, oh shit, he's the one that fucking saved Trebon from the demon. And so this story doesn't even get tied into him until later on.
I love how he plays them too. The mayor and the constable. He just sits there, doesn't really say anything.
Yeah.
And obviously with everything that he's done, you know, he plays into it perfectly because they basically show their cards because he won't talk.
Yeah.
So they just keep talking.
They're very quick to believe that he's some kind of priest or I don't know, messenger sent from God.
Well, I love
the
that
town.
I love that they're calling him Sir, which is pretty great. And then you know, he has a little back and forth about, you know, has anyone seen my cousin, or, you know, the girl that survived the Moth and Wedding, has anyone seen her? And then they're like, do you think she's connected to this? And he's like, what? So then he has to like kind of tamp that down pretty emphatically with no, don't be ridiculous. She was helping me in my work. And then they're just kind of trying to test him out, like, is your work finished here? Like, because, you know, they're just like, why did this happen? Are we safe? And I love you're as safe as I can make you.
Yeah,
that's
leaves everything super vague. And then also too, like, as he's like leaving the room, like he goes walking out and like flings his cape out so it like billows behind him.
Well, I was going to say, he's definitely exalting himself with you're as safe as I can make you.
Yeah.
Because it's all on me, bro. There's nothing you can do. You guys are helpless.
Yeah, it's a very humble moment.
Yeah. But to be certain of your safety, I do need some information. And then, you know, kind of that's how we find out about the girl.
Nina.
Yeah, where they mentioned, oh, no, he lays to them, if anyone found anything, tell them I'm leaving town tomorrow. And then, yeah, he does his exit with his cloak, thinking he looks super cool.
There's did you guys notice when the constable and the mayor are questioning him, there's a certain point where Kvothe says something, and I think it's right there where he's talking about Denna. There's a look that the mayor threw the constable that made me think that maybe he knew about Denna beforehand, or
no. It was when Kvothe asked them about what they found at the Mothin farm. And then they looked at each other like, how the fuck does he know that they found something at the Mothin farm?
No, it was.
And that's when they talk about that's when they mention a look between the.
Well, actually, no. He does ask about Denna, and then they're like, is she connected to this beast in some way? And he's like, no, don't be ridiculous. She was helping me in my work. Then they say right there, the mayor glared at the constable, then looked back to me. Is your work finished here? So
yeah, I didn't know why. I didn't understand that look. It could have been something in passing that didn't mean anything, but it struck me.
I think the look was they're both worried. Like, okay, so what the fuck's this guy doing here? Helping me in my work. Why is he here? What's he doing?
Yeah, that's what I think.
Want
like
him
with
gone.
The way because he says she was helping me with my work, and then he glares at the constable and he's like, "Is your work finished?" I think that's what it was about, is the work, not Denna. Like, because with the way he reacted about Denna is like, is she involved in this?
Yeah, because they don't
like
know what the hell's going on.
Like the
draccus, they had the
work
Moth
is when he hears like, you know, she was helping me with my work. That's when he's like, he's here to do work. So that was like the first piece of information that they got that something was going down.
I mean, I would have to think as we move forward in this place. You talked about how they'd be super religious. There's the Mothin, all these deaths at the Mothin farm. There's this girl, nobody knows what's she doing here. Then this guy shows up. Then the draccus, right? So it's just like, I don't know what that guy and girl were, but they're gone, and now we're finally safe after all this shit went down. You know,
Yeah,
so
and you got and not only that, but then you got this guy in here, and you don't know what the fuck's going on, and then he tells you that he's there to do work, and before he says work, like you have no idea why he's there, and so that was the first like, oh shit, so he is here to do work, and so he's like, so we've learned something. So that's what I take that glare as, like, see, there's a piece of information, because then he follows it up with, is your work finished?
Are you done? Okay, is it over? You getting the fuck out of here then?
What he really wanted to ask is, okay, why are you here and what are you doing? But they don't have the balls to ask that. They're fucking scared of this dude. So they're just like, are you going to leave? You cutting out anytime soon? Because we're very uncomfortable with all this.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and then he asked about what they found at the moth farm, and Nina comes in, and she tells him that it was a big fancy pot, she said softly, about this high. She held her hand about 3 feet off the ground. It was shaking, her hand was shaking. It had all sorts of writings and pictures on it. Really fancy. I haven't seen colors like that, and some of the paints were shiny like silver and gold. And then when he asked her what was on it, she says, people, mostly people. There was a woman holding a broken sword, a man next to a dead tree, and another man with a dog biting his leg. She trailed off. Was there one with white hair and black eyes? She looked at me wide-eyed, nodding. Gave me the all over, she shivered. The Chandrian. It was the vase showing the Chandrian in their sign. So, a woman holding a broken sword, a man next to a dead tree, and another man with a dog biting his leg. So the man with the dog biting his leg, that's the one, we talked about, where I posit that that's probably Grey Delcinti, that I think that it's not just that he's silent, that when they talk about animals going mad and crazy, I think the most likely scenario is that that's Grey Delcinti, that he's the one driving animals and men mad.
I thought at least that it's the one that makes the animals go mad. But what was the broken sword one? I don't remember that.
Well, I mean, Sturkis is in Thrall of Iron, and then also like Pale Linta brings the blight, and Uznea lives in nothing but decay. So
the dead tree is decay. The broken sword is Thrall of Iron.
Corrosion.
Wasn't there something about a woman? There was a woman with some of her clothes off.
Yeah, then she goes, there was one with no face, just a hood with nothing inside. There was a mirror by his feet, and there was a bunch of moons over him. Full moon, half moon, liver moon. She looked down thinking, and there was a woman, she blushed, with some of her clothes off. Can you remember anything else, I asked? She shook her head. What about the writing? Nina shook her head. This was all foreign writing. It didn't say anything. So, obviously, the man in shadow is Haliax. Mm-hmm. But there was a mirror under him and a bunch of moons over his head. I'm curious what the fuck that would signify. There's got to be some kind of significance to the mirror and the moons.
That kind of reminded me of Phasia.
Yeah.
Because when
especially because of the coin.
When it went on the coin, when it's King Phasia alive, he's got a sun over him. But when he's the Draug, he's the dead wizard King Phasia, there's a moon over his head.
Yeah, and if you guys haven't looked into that coin, it's like a mirror of itself with the dead king below it and the live king above it.
That's what. That's what I got from the mirror. I mean, that's why it made me think of that, because it's a reflective state, right?
Yeah, like a mirror image.
Yeah. That's why it made me think of that. Before Phasia and all that mentioning, I was just confused by it. I didn't have anything. I thought, well, we'll find out in book 3. Basically, I didn't draw any connections myself.
Maybe Haliax is like Medusa, and if you show him his reflection, he turns to stone.
So they're telling you how to kill him?
That's it.
It's the most likely scenario. Anytime there's a moon or there's a mirror in a story, that means that the character associated with that mirror is Medusa.
Well, Dan, with these theories, there's a couple questions you got to ask yourself. Does it make the book better? Here, the answer is no.
Yes. Way better.
The fact that Nina blushes tells me the woman with her clothes off, that's just pure old poontang. And we're looking at the hat.
Yeah.
right?
Imperial flashing that
Yep.
poontang.
Once again.
We're looking at the hat, the sombrero. That is her poontang.
Yeah.
Or is it a stocking cap?
Anytime anybody
hat.
looks at that picture, they just start hearing, "My milkshake brings all the boys to the yard."
That's why she blushes. She likes
Yeah.
that song so much. She's keeping herself from dancing. It's so encouraging.
She wants to twerk so bad for Kvothe.
Yeah, exactly.
On Kvothe, maybe.
On Kvothe. But for reals, yo, any thoughts on the woman with her clothes off?
No, I don't know what that would signify. I don't have any kind of guesses on it. There's not really any information on the only mention like of a girl. I can't think of anything else. Maybe like an angel's mentioned without clothes on, or one of the angels is the first one to feel the unasked for touch of man and shit like that. But I don't know what what is signified by the mirror, the moons, the nakedness. I don't know what these things are supposed to be signifying to us.
The moons, to me, I mean, and I'm sure you make the same connections as well. Phasia, but also the Fae, and that channeling, that portal aspect of it. It seems like if you're going to get to the Chandrian, maybe you have to pass through the Fae to get to him.
Yeah, I mean, it could signify like that. Because of the mirror and the moons, is that his body, his body is in the Fae, and like, it's his essence or something that's traveling around outside of the Fae. Maybe he's split. Well, like part of him is in the Fae, part of him is out of the Fae, and so, I don't know. But that's all I can. I can just come up with guesses. I don't have any kind of clear indication about what any of that shit means.
Perhaps what actually Rothfuss is saying with the mirror is he's looking for the man in the mirror.
Yeah,
he's just a big Michael Jackson fan.
Yep.
Oh.
Right.
That's 100% it.
That's one of his better
Not trying to
songs.
discover himself, but actually wants to listen to some Michael Jackson music.
Yeah.
I understand. I like your theory that
Man,
I like your theory that they come from that the Chandrian come from the Fae.
Ways.
You guys just tell me when you're done.
And see, we are asking for Haliax to change his ways.
Exactly.
So it makes perfect sense. So another mystery solved.
It totally works, man. And I think, so Rothfuss, again, a lot of these, we have to remember, a lot of these pages he wrote in a strip club, probably playing Man in the Mirror. There's, one of those girls loves that song, and the milkshake. They probably both worked into his subconscious.
Yep.
It's a state of
I'm gonna
osmosis,
guess that girl that's dancing to that song isn't making a lot of money.
No, it's a weird one to play at a strip club.
It is a weird one to play, but it's a great song, man. But yeah, it's a little bit of a weird one.
Got the guys on Perverts Row like thinking deeply about their life. Like, man, should I really be doing this?
Yeah, you don't want to encourage
What
that
am I doing
at a strip
here?
club.
What was I thinking? There's a guy in the bathroom doing like lines, and then he looks up at himself in the mirror as it's saying like, and I'm looking at the man in the mirror, and he just starts crying. He just breaks down in tears, fucking runs out of the strip club.
Runs out of the strip club, gets his life together.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Strippers saving lives.
It's a tremendous story, dude. It's the story of Kvothe leaving Tarbeen.
Yeah.
So I got a question that I hope you guys can answer now that we're kind of towards the end of this chapter. Why is it named Ashen Elm? The chapter itself.
Well, they buried the draccus, Ashen Elm, and Rowan too.
Yeah, that's what it's.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
But I mean, it's a valid
they
question
burn him
in
with,
the sense of what's that?
That Ashen Elm and Rowan too. That's what they burn.
Yeah,
with
that's
to
how
burn the draccus. Yeah,
correct.
If they're gonna burn a demon. Although I mean, it's a valid question in the sense of is that the dominant thing that happens in this chapter?
Yeah, but I mean that's what it's Ashen Elm ... So that's what they're talking about. Ashen Elm and Rowan too. Okay. So it's about the poem. It's about them fucking burning a fucking King's Ransom, just setting it on fire, just like fucking lighting cigarettes with $100 bills like it's nothing. After their whole fucking city just got destroyed, and they're like, we don't need the money. Fuck it.
That's a Grey Dalcenti type move right there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
lights his cigs with $100 bills.
Grey Dalcenti wouldn't have gave a shit about that money.
What money?
What if I was going to say, what if, it would kind of suck if all the dinner resin didn't play any part and it was actually Grey Dalcenti's just hanging out, driving the draccus nuts.
Yeah.
He's just invisible, like riding him the whole time.
He's a hero, though. He wouldn't do that.
He's on his back.
Yeah,
just whipping him around. So the other thing is he's invisible.
He's just laying on it though, sideways, just like at his arm.
Yeah,
arm on his thing. Yeah,
relaxing,
he's just fucking just chilling.
So like perhaps his duster is like Kavothe's shade.
Yeah,
it's invisibility. It's an invisibility duster.
His duster is way fucking better than Kavothe's stupid ass cloak. There's no doubt about that.
Grey Dalcenti just like reaches his arm around to the draccus's face and lights his cigarette off the fire.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love this idea. He's just riding him around. I love this. This is good stuff, man.
It ends with Nina. He gives her a little charm. Makes up a bullshit story behind it to kind of fucking tide her over. And then, he finishes with over the last month, I had pulled a woman from a blazing inferno. I had called fire and lightning down on assassins and escaped to safety. I had even killed something that could have been either a dragon or a demon, depending on your point of view. But there in that room was the first time I actually felt like any sort of hero. If you're looking for a reason for the man I would eventually become, if you're looking for a beginning, look there. He does that a number of times. Like the two biggest points where he does that is when he doesn't save that kid from getting raped in Tarbean, and here when he mollifies this girl who is, in a panicked state and, terribly afraid.
Yeah, it reminded me of that as well, of when exactly, because it's basically the exact same thing that he said. If you want to know a reason why I became a hero, it's this right here. He said the exact same thing here. So obviously, I think, maybe it alludes that Kvothe cares about kids, maybe? I don't know.
That the people who are, in desperate fear or weak and down and out, like these are the people that, he feels for. And if he can help those kind of people, because it's like helping himself, because he's been in those shoes. He's been that terrified after his family's massacred, and you're so scared that he fucking turned his mind off, or the kid getting raped in the alley. He'd been in those shoes, like he had been attacked by boys in those alleys. So like, I think it's a callback to when he's with someone who reminds him of what he went through in Tarbean. It brings those feelings up.
The boy getting raped it's him. He's basically watching what happened to him and doesn't do anything, and that's why he does this now. And that's why he becomes this person, because that's like, he describes that as like his biggest regret out of everything, leading up to, basically where we've gotten to. So yeah, this is, I love this ending. This is like pretty powerful in the way that he states it for what he did for her, which is, he invents something. He didn't actually do anything, but it was extraordinarily impactful for this girl and completely changes, the trajectory of her life just based on what he was able to, create for in her mind. Is fucking great.
Yeah, 100%. It's, it makes you like Kvothe that much more. You already like Kvothe, but you like a hero that's, looking out for the people who can't fucking look out for themselves.
And even though, like this one's even like it's not even real heroism. He hasn't really done anything. He's actually lied to the girl about what he's given her. But he does give her that quelling of fear. He's done the opposite. He's done the real deal for the whole town in making them actually safer.
But
Yeah.
I would also bear in mind what he is doing is good for the girl. She should not be fearing the Chandrian. You know what I'm saying? They're not coming after her. They don't know who she is. And she could live in fear the rest of her life thinking it is. Like she did this because of what she, because of her.
Although,
her
like
of the pod.
from his position, he doesn't fucking have any idea why the Chandrian are doing what they're doing or coming. So he has no fucking clue if she's actually in danger or not. He's telling her what he thinks she should hear, not necessarily what is the truth. It turns out, she actually is safe, but he doesn't know that at this point.
Wouldn't that be interesting if his reaction was, "Yeah, sucks to be you."
Yeah, who knows?
Good luck with that shit.
Sorry, kid.
Damn.
Like, what if that's when he reveals the story of what happened to his parents. She's like, "Am I in danger?" Like, well, my dad just sang a song, and the Chandrian came, and they killed everybody I've ever known. I mean, they slaughtered him, like fucking bones sticking out of skin, like cut in half, like just they raped my mom. Like, I mean, just a massacre. So you saw their pot with their signs on it. He was just singing a song. It was just like a cool, campy song. So, I don't know.
You might be next, kid.
Yeah.
Do you have any weapons?
Good luck with that. I got to go, though.
I was going to say, and it's probably a small thing, but it jumped out at me when he says, when he's doing this for her, reciting the lines from Ve Valora Sartain, and Tima is an impressive sounding language, especially if you have a good dramatic baritone, which I did. Now, I know he's gotten older, but does he lose his singing voice? Is that what's insinuated by what he's saying here? Is that...
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's signifying that he doesn't really sing that much anymore, but I don't, they talk about him singing in chapter 3, and I don't remember if they mention a baritone, but I mean, he's always talking about his baritone. He's very proud of it. Even though the guy doing the audible does not have a strong baritone.
No, he does not.
But Kvothe apparently does.
Yeah, apparently he inherited it from his father. And what were his friends again? Non-castrati. So he's a non-castrati. Yeah. Maybe what changes now he's a castrati.
He's a quadruple castrati.
How's that possible?
He's got 4 castratis.
You got 4 balls. You can take your time. Do one at a time.
That's why he's got such a strong baritone. He's got an abundance of castratis.
That's very strange. That is all I have for that chapter.
Yeah, that's all I got for that one, too.
All right, then. Chapter 83 is labeled Return. In this chapter, Kvothe takes a barge back to Imre. He pays off Debbie, tells Sim and Will what happened, and looks for dinner without success. It was a short chapter, so let's go on to the next one, too. And chapter 84, called A Sudden Storm. In this chapter, Kvothe runs into Dinah and Imre, but she's on a date, so they part ways. Kvothe meets up with Will and Sim near the fountain in front of the Aeolian. Shortly thereafter, their conversation is interrupted by Ambrose, who's just stolen Kvothe's loot. After Kvothe threatens him, Ambrose throws the loot back to Kvothe, but he drops it and it breaks. When this happens, Kvothe unknowingly calls the name of the wind and knocks Ambrose to the ground. But Kvothe goes mute. So Will and Sim take him to Kilvin, and Elodin enters and speaks the name of the wind to Kvothe, which begins the process of bringing him back from half-cracked. Guys?
Yeah, so like it starts with Kvothe coming down, and everybody sees that he's, got the bandages off, and everybody's like, holy shit, this dude's a fucking superhuman. And then I like that the innkeeper is like, when he goes to pay him and he's like, no, I couldn't dare take your money. He's like, no, I insist. No, absolutely not. He wouldn't hear of it. If only there was something else he could do to show his gratitude. It's like, oh, well, now that you mention it, hook me up with some of that fucking sweet strawberry wine, buddy. let me get another bottle of that shit.
Yeah, Kvothe is like the Godfather, man.
Yeah.
Yes. People throwing him oranges.
I just throwing him oranges. I just love that this dude had the complete 180. It's fucking great. After being a complete prick. Kept calling him boy or son or something like that in the previous chapter, and now he's like, "Oh no, sir." Oh, yeah, swaggercock too. But yeah, no, I mean, there's a few times it always stands out when somebody's calling him boy or son, and I feel like he kept calling him one of those two. But
that stuff's great, and like you said, Kvothe did ramp it up from I will tie you down and make the constable come and give you a stern talking to. It's like, well, I will murder you. So he ramps up on the guy quite a bit. Yeah. But yeah, then he goes out and he goes to the dock, and he finds out that Denna was able to get on a boat and get out of town on her own. So shows you how resourceful she is. She has no money. She has nothing. She has nothing to bargain with.
She's got a hangover too.
Yeah. Yeah, and she's fucking coming down off of that shit, been sleeping outside, so it's not like she's looking probably fucking prim and proper. She's probably looking a little ragged, and still she's able to fucking hustle some rich dude into fucking paying her way to get the fuck out of Dodge and get on a boat and fucking get herself in a much better position. Shows that she's very, very capable of taking care of herself. Like, as much as Kvothe was worried about her, she's just like, all right, fucking let's get the fuck out of here, and she fucking did it with no.
It is pretty,
seemingly no problem.
It is also pretty interesting because, when Kvothe asked the question of himself, why hadn't she come to Trebon? Did she think I had abandoned her? Did she really, did she remember anything they talked about? But yeah, I mean, I think it would be reasonable for her to assume that Kvothe might be in, well, that town obviously wasn't too kind to her anyway, so probably going back is not a great idea in retrospect.
Well, and and Kvothe said it, and she says it all the time. She don't wait around for him.
Yeah. She doesn't wait around where she's not wanted. Yeah. She'll bail whenever she feels like she's not wanted. And she
could have easily came back to the town and saw it fucking roasted to shit, and after they had already thought she was responsible, she might have had something to do with the Motham Farm. She's not going to be coming in fucking after their city gets destroyed and being like, hey, I'm back.
Hey guys.
You guys remember me? I'm the one that was at that murder farm?
Yeah.
Where's Anus Face?
Yeah. Where's that anus mouth bitch? But yeah, then he goes back into town, comes up with a deal with Devi, gives her the Loading Stone and a silver talent, and wipes out his debt. And then, he's largely broke again, but, now he's down to just that 4 talent debt instead of, owing her for the horse. So for as much as the risk that he took for, getting that horse and taking it to town, he was able to kind of come out of this situation rather unscathed, financially speaking.
Yeah, that Loading Stone kind of came in handy, didn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, in a massive way. Yeah, that was huge. And what was that? That was the Tinker, right?
That traded him for.
Yeah, he traded the horse for it.
Yeah, the horse.
Yeah, with the Tinker. Yeah,
yeah.
And, I mean, and that I know he didn't take the wine, he didn't take the rope, but that Loading Stone. That's why he got the draccus. That's why now he's pretty much even with Debbie. It worked out pretty masterfully.
You say that's why he got the.
What's that?
Say that's why he got the draccus. You mean because he used sympathy to bind it to the iron wheel and brought it down that way?
Yeah, I mean he used the Loading Stone. Yeah, and if so I mean what I was going to say is he should probably start listening to these tinkers like Denna told him, and he's been telling everybody else.
Was the Loading Stone one of the first? That was it was kind of a straight up trade, the Loading Stone for the horse. So that was one of the things that was the thing that he did take.
Yeah, well, And
everything
the other thing
he took
is
came into play. That came significantly into play. Saved him
Well, I was
of
gonna
his
say-
debt and helped him kill the draccus.
the other thing is the horse is extraordinarily valuable. So I don't know what else he's going to trade him other than like a loading stone. He's going to get some really super nice clothes, like a just dope ass cloak. You know, like I mean, because you're talking 20 talents. You know, so yeah.
Yeah, have to have a whole bunch of pockets.
Yeah, super nice pockets.
And then
Silk lined.
he goes and he starts making his goes on his apology tour, and Auri kind of reproaches him. She says she reproached me gently for not coming to visit her, and he's like, most importantly were Will and Sim. They had heard rumors of a student attacked in an alley. Given Ambrose's smugger than usual expression of late, they expected I'd run out of town, or at worst, that I was weighted down with rocks at the bottom of the Omethi. They were the only ones that got a real explanation of what happened, though I didn't tell them the entire truth about why I was interested in the Chandrian. I did tell them the whole story and showed them the scale. They were appropriately amazed, though they did tell me in plain terms that next time I would leave a note for them where there would be hell to pay. And I looked for Denna, hoping to make my most important explanation of all, but as always, looking did no good. And then, comes in the next chapter, opens up with, in the end, I found Denna as I always do, through pure accident. So he comes up on her and just he stumbles into her. One thing of note that when he does stumble into her, he says, I'd remembered the shape of her eyes, but not the weight of them, their darkness, but not their depth. Her closeness pressed the breath out of my chest as if suddenly I'd been thrust deep underwater. The only people that they mention of having eyes, that in a significant way like that, it tends to be the like Kvothe and Elodin and powerful people, and so it's interesting that they do bring that up in regard to her.
Yeah,
I don't know that it means anything necessarily, but it's noteworthy because of when they do mention eyes.
I keep getting the feeling that Denna is, she has like an important lineage, because, and I don't mean just important like to the royalty of the world. I mean important to like Kvothe's level, where like she has some innate power that's born in because of things like that. In particular, things like that.
Yeah, and like the Moteth, leaving that out there where she says that word and we don't know what that means. There's obviously something significant to her past that we need to know to really understand who she is and what
all the nightmares. Yeah.
Well,
and so I mean, and I don't know we've talked about it, but the fact that she seems to have this knowledge of how people act in many situations, even like she seems to have like a almost like an elegance about her that would hint at a royal lineage or like a history of being in like the higher status in this world. At least like her family was or something. So yeah, something crazy tragic had to have happened, or she bailed. But yeah, I mean, obviously she wouldn't do that unless it was a pretty tragic event in itself. So yeah, there's some real skeletons back there.
So I'll say that this brief description, it does kind of allude to her being more than human, or at least special. It kind of says, that she, the depth of her eyes, that there's something magical about it, but also at the same time, you can take it as Kvothe just being madly in love with this girl, and a 16-year-old kid describing how he feels about somebody. And I know that feeling of a girl that you're, when you're young and you're into her and she does something playful, like just touches your chest with her hand, and it's like, oh, it gives you that feeling that take your breath away is one way of describing it.
So always that happens in reverse for me. Like the girl touches me and she gets weak in the knees.
Jesus, she faints.
I will say that whole description that whole description though does it's very much he is ridiculously into her. But then she is with him. I mean, her reaction too.
He gets lost in her eyes too, in another part when he tells her like "love me" when he means to say it playfully or something, but then he like looks in her eyes and then he says it, and he says it too seriously and puts too much weight into it because he looked into her eyes and got kind of fucking caught up in them. So there's a couple mentions of her eyes tripping him up, and it happens a lot with the Loden. I mean, it's going to happen here, coming up. So he might be deeply in love with the Loden and not know it too.
It is interesting how quickly they go right back into the way things were.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where it's like, and I know there's another guy there. And actually, I love that when she introduces him, Kvothe's like, shit, I didn't even know there was a dude there. Like, I kind of wish she would have said that. Oh, I didn't even see you.
Yeah.
Like how that would have played for this guy.
I like the nonverbals that they actually, him and Denna actually communicate that it's not Master Ash without saying a word. They know exactly one to the other what the other one is saying or asking.
Yeah. And that's what I was saying. I mean, they go right back into the way they used to be, where it's like they're talking about a story, but that story isn't really what they're really talking about. And it's all that playfulness back and forth that we've seen with them a million times. It's just they go right back into it the next time they see each other.
Yeah, and we learn Lintarin. He's tall and lean, well-muscled, well-dressed, and well-bred. He had a jawline like a mason would have... He had a jawline a mason would have been proud, and straight white teeth. He looked like Prince Gallant out of a storybook. He reeked of money. So, she asked if Kvothe was going to be her Prince Gallant, and fucking Lintarin fucking stepped up and filled the role for him. And then, I mean, it just shows you, like, how adept Denna is at moving through the world, that she can go from just being dead broke with nothing to now she's, like, fucking hooked up, shacking up with some rich fucking noble who's like taking her horseback riding and all this kind of shit. She can just like, she's not going to be in Kvothe's situation where he was on the streets in Tarbean and there for living in the gutters for 3 years. This girl can be fucking penniless and be fucking, on a rich noble's arm the next day. So she is very adept at moving through the world.
Yeah, she definitely has her game together, that's for sure.
Yeah, and then, so, he agrees to meet Denna later on, tells her, lets her know that he killed the dragon, but lost the treasure and the girl, and they agree to meet each other later on, and then it moves into the town. So you got again, the boys are back in town. They're hanging tough. And Kvothe lays his loot case on the ground to let it get some sun, because his loot case likes a nice tan, like Loden likes his feet fucking all bronzed up.
I do like that touch quite a bit. I thought that was pretty great. Where he opens the lid, thinking my lute might enjoy the feel of a little sun on its strings. If you aren't a musician, I don't expect you to understand. Which is, it's pretty great. I mean, it kind of ties in with like, what it must mean to him and, what that's like. And I mean, I'm not a musician, so I don't really know what that's like to have an attachment to an instrument like that. But it's a pretty great little touch for sure.
These two chapters back to back, the situations with his friends, made me get a feeling more of what you guys talk about more, and just the meaningfulness of their friendship. Because last chapter, the worry that Will and Sim had, and even though Kvothe was like, well, look, guys, I was killing this dragon for a whole town. I saved this whole town, and all this different stuff, and they're like, okay, that's cool, but just we were worried. Next time, leave a note. Then the next chapter going in, and he's sitting there, and the guys, and it could be because the story comes from Kvothe, but seems like the guys are always like trying to help Kvothe out with his problems. Right now, they're really trying to tell Kvothe or make him realize that Denna does like him and boost his confidence in that way a little bit. They may have been talking for a long time prior to Ambrose coming up, but it seemed like that's what the crux of their conversation was.
And Will, again, like I've said before, he steps in for the audience, and he either brings up or asks Kvothe questions that we would have, like, why, if Denna knew her patron was safe, then why the fuck was she going looking for him and that kind of shit. And so, and Sim gives the explanation that I think is probably the accurate one, because I can't think of any other reason why Denna would be doing that other than she could be spying on Kvothe, but she wasn't just like, where are you going? Let me tag along. She's like, I need to go back to the Mothin farm. And Kvothe's like, well, coincidentally, I need to go there too. So she wasn't necessarily just like following Kvothe. She led. She was saying, this is where I'm going. Kvothe's like, well, I'm going to go there too. So it's hard to say that she was just spying on Kvothe, given that's how that interaction went down. But those are really like the only two possibilities, is that she wanted to spend time with Kvothe or she's spying on him. And I don't think she was spying on him. I don't get that sense from their interactions in those whole scenes. Especially when she's all drugged up and she starts opening it up to him.
That you brought it up that Kvothe was kind of following her. Because she went to the Mothin. She said, I'm going back to the Mothin farm. Kvothe went with her. And then she said, now I'm going to go look for my patron. And Kvothe followed her. And really, they were together until Kvothe left. And then, at that point, she skipped. She didn't wait around for him.
Yeah. So you get the sense that she wanted to, it would make sense if she wanted to spend time with Kvothe. And so she's like, here, come with me here, come with me there. And, that kind of thing. That makes more sense than she was spying. So I do think Sim is correct that, look, this girl comes looking for you everywhere you go. She's constantly like, has you following her around to different things. Walk with me, come do this with me. So it seems very more along that vein than she was spying on him.
Yeah, it's really funny though, man, because this would be something that he desperately wants, but he will not allow himself to be convinced.
Yeah,
and he even talks about it, where he says, I thought of tall. He gets excited, like, oh, maybe they're right, maybe, and then he remembers that Denna was delirious, right, when she opened up to him and everything, and then he remembers tall, handsome, wealthy Lantaran and all the other countless men who had something worthwhile to offer her, something more than a good singing voice and manly bravado. So more than swagger cock, basically.
Yeah. Fucking filthy little swagger cock.
I thought that was really funny that he described himself like that.
There was something that I picked up this time around
that's how she described him, though.
Yeah,
she kept talking about his manly bravado.
Yeah.
So
do more of that. Yeah.
I like your manly bravado.
There was something that I noticed this time that I don't think I noticed first time through, and I noticed it because I know what's about to happen. But when he sits down with them and they're watching the fountain, Kvothe notices a few red maple leaves dance circles on the cobblestones. I watched them as they skipped and twirled, tracing strange, complicated patterns in the empty air. So he's seeing the wind here.
Correct.
Right? And there's another hint again before he actually names it. So it's interesting that his subconscious, right, it's his sleeping mind, is seeing the wind. He's not even really like paying attention to it. He sort of is, right, because he's watching the pattern, and we know he's watched it in the past. He was in a completely different state then, but it's slowly creeping into his waking mind, or at least his sense.
Yeah, it's very similar to when he was all bloody up in he was in the Hall of Winds or Wind Hall or whatever it was called. That he ends up it was but Loden tells him the real name. It was like the House of the Wind. And so it was very similar to that kind of experience as he's watching it, because he's even just kind of half listening, because like Sim was like, Sim looked at me for a moment, then shrugged it off. If that's the case, he said, gesturing with his piece of chicken, fella talks about you all the time. Thinks you're a hell of a guy. Plus the whole saving her life thing. I'm pretty sure you have a chance there. I shrugged, watching the patterns the wind made in the fountain spray. So he was getting lost in the wind. He was starting to see the name of the wind, and then Ambrose fucking stepped up to him at the wrong fucking time when he had the fucking wind at the tip of his tongue. Fucking takes his loot and starts fucking with him. But I like that he's like, I got to my feet, keeping my eyes on him, on my loot. I had come to think of Ambrose as taller than me, but when I stood, I saw we were at eye level with each other. Ambrose seemed a bit surprised as well. Give it to me, I said, and stretched out my hand. I was surprised to see that it wasn't shaking. I was shaking inside, half fear, half fury. Two parts of me tried to speak at the same time. The first part cried, please don't do anything to it. Not again. Don't break it. Please give it back. Don't hold it by the neck like that. The other half of me was chanting, I hate you. I hate you. I hate you. I hate you. Like spitting out mouthfuls of blood. I took a step forward. Give it to me. My voice sounded odd to my own ears, motionless and flat as my outstretched palm. I had stopped shaking inside. He paused for a moment, caught unaware by something in my tone. I could sense his unease. I wasn't acting the way he had expected. Behind me, I could hear Willem and Sim hold their breath. Behind Ambrose, his friends paused, suddenly unsure.
Yeah,
So
something happens. Something clearly happens there. It seems like the air is charged. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you could see like his sleeping mind is taking over. Like like his voice sounds weird to him, and he's kind of having an outer body experience.
Yeah.
And are the few times where he brings up prior to this in this chapter noticing the wind? I also noticed that he mentions a few times that silence broke out, or maybe it was the first time silence broke out, and this time it's that that Will and Sim were short of breath, or that there was a quietness anyway. I don't know.
I could hear Willem and Sim hold their breath.
Right.
So they got quiet and were it just got real fucking tense, and he could feel it. He could feel the tension.
Well, he could feel Ambrose. Ambrose was caught unaware. Also, his friends paused, suddenly unsure. It seemed like, everybody felt something. Everyone in the vicinity there felt something. And then, shit goes down. And, man, this is written so great because it ratchets up so quickly, and you fucking hate Ambrose. And throughout this.
The one thing you got to give Ambrose credit for is like his diss track is one of the hottest diss tracks I've ever listened to.
Yeah, right.
Dude, that shit.
Hey.
I mean, that's if I forget Ice Cube going against NWA. Like I don't know, I would name a diss track: Nas against Jay-Z or Jay-Z against Nas.
Ether.
No, Ambrose fucking slammed Kvothe so fucking hard. There once was a rabble named Kvothe, whose tongue was quick at quipping. The masters thought him clever and rewarded him with whipping. That's just fucking in your face, in your face, in your face.
Yeah, I love that his I don't know, pentameter or whatever. It just doesn't work, man. Like he clearly he's very simpleton with his little
it's a
rhymes.
fucking nursery rhyme.
Yeah, but it doesn't even.
Then he's like, everyone sing, and then nobody sings.
Yeah, that's great. It is great. Yeah, raises his hands. Everybody, and everybody's like, nope.
Kvothe didn't. He came back a little harder again.
Yeah,
he didn't He goes from a guy's like I'll have someone give you a stern talking to. I'll murder you. Fucking Ambrose like, here, check out my diss track. Kvothe's like, yeah, I will murder you.
Yeah, he comes back with that consistent all in.
He's always like,
you don't get me.
It's like whatever they say is like, I will murder you. Like, well, you always do this. Why do you always go to 10?
You always got to take it to level 10,
Yeah.
Kvothe.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Did you get the sense?
He falls asleep drunk and writes on his friend, or his friends write on him. He stabs him in the throat. It's like, God, dude, we're just fucking around, man. You just killed him.
It's just a wiener on your forehead. Did you, so this is the other one I was talking about where Kvothe is like, give me a keg of beer. So anyway, but
did you get keep using this reference that didn't land the first time? But okay, go with it.
It doesn't land with you two because you guys, but the audience gets it. And when you guys see the clip, you're going to be like, that's definitely it. Anyway,
you know what I'm thinking? I'm thinking actually your reference is really good for the Swagger Cock run. Dan, you remember the end of Teen Wolf? Or Fitz, do you know about the end of Teen Wolf?
When the guy fucking
pulls his junk out.
Yeah, that's a fucking amazing
extra.
Moment.
It's so classic.
Yeah, one of the extra.
He hangs wing.
Well, it's so perfect because they couldn't cut it because it's too important of a scene. It's that whole climax of the basketball game where he wins as Michael J. Fox, as it's written in the book, instead of Teen Wolf.
I've heard people try to debunk it, and I won't even read the articles because I'm like, no, you're not ruining this for me. What I think it happened is by far the best fucking story ever, so that's what happened. Fuck your stupid debunking.
To quote Creed for the second time in this episode, guy was just hanging some brain. What's the
It's it immediately makes me respect that dude for pulling that. It's just it's so classic.
That's a classic. If you don't know what we're talking about, there's like at the end of Teen Wolf, there's a scene where like the guy hits the winning shot and
it's
they all
the climax.
Go, and everybody rushes off the stands and rushes the court, and there's just one guy that it looks like he's like got his fucking dick pulled out, and then he just like has it pulled out and then like puts it back in his pants real quick. It's just up in the stands, one of the extras. And
it's one of the extras in the bleachers.
As the credits start to roll.
I don't think you can even like see his face if I remember right. It's just literally he pulls out his junk is out and he puts it away.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. I've heard
so classic.
There's supposedly a debunking of it, but I prefer the dick out story because that's way better.
I sure as hell did when I was watching that as a kid. I thought that was the most classic thing ever.
Yeah.
But hey, did you guys? So sorry to bring it back, but to reel you guys back in.
Oh,
but
Jesus.
But did you get the sense when this happens that maybe Kvothe not only when he gets pissed off like this that his eyes turn bright and his hair turns bright, but maybe also he grows a couple inches?
Yeah, it's interesting.
I don't know. Like I think that's just he's going through puberty. He's becoming a man.
It's
his
interesting
voice changes.
They didn't bring up. There's no bringing up of his eyes here, but yeah, I kind of thought about that to a degree. Like when, again, so I said that earlier. It's like he's built for confrontation. Like when he says he was surprised his hands weren't shaking. He's in a confrontational moment, and his body like takes over. Because like he expected his hands to be shaking, but they weren't. And the fact that like he's standing taller, it's almost like again like he's built for moments like this. Is what it kind of read. That's how it read to me. Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, I don't think he necessarily grew, but it seems like he has this. Again, I think it's in his bloodline, in his lineage. He rises to the occasion. He's very clutch.
He seems like he becomes a pretty stout dude. Like because when he's in the bar, in the frame, like and Bast goes to attack Chronicler, he just snatches Bast up with. One arm. He just fucking one arms him and pulls him up short and fucking bruises the shit out of his arm. So, and he talks about his like the muscles in his arm fucking rippling and shit like that. And so, seems like he's a pretty sturdy dude by the time he's fully grown.
Yeah, and there could be something to that, Tim, that he's on a growth spurt, hit puberty.
But yeah, then so Ambrose throws it back to him, and it fucking, falls weird, and Kvothe can't grab it, so he says, my loot hit the cobblestone's bowl first and made a splintering noise. The sound reminded me of the terrible noise my father's loot had made, crushed beneath my body in a soot-streaked alley in Tarpean. So immediately, he's not only is he starting to He's got the wind at the tip of his tongue, and he's kind of got this like a little animal instinct going, but then he gets that fucking reminder of his dad's loot being destroyed in Tarbean, and really brings a touch of that animal side. And he's like, I bent to pick it up, and it made a noise like a wounded animal.
Yeah, one of the worst moments of his life.
Yeah.
I mean, it's such a great callback because that was horrible. That was a horrific moment.
Yeah, and then it's Ambrose half turned to look back at me, and I saw flickers of amusement play across his face. I opened my mouth to howl, to cry, to curse him, but something other tore from my throat, a word I did not know and could not remember. Then all I could hear was the sound of the wind. It roared into the courtyard like a sudden storm. A nearby carriage slid across the cobblestones, its horse rearing up in panic. Sheet music was torn from someone's hand, streaked around us like some strange lightning. I was pushed forward a step. Everyone was pushed by the wind. Everyone but Ambrose, who pinwheeled to the ground as if struck by the hand of God. Then everything was still again. Papers fell, twisting like autumn leaves. People looked around dazed, their hair tousled and clothes in disarray. Several people staggered as they braced against a storm that was no longer there. My throat hurt. My loot was broken. Ambrose staggered to his feet. He held his arms awkwardly at his side and blood running down from his scalp. The look of wild, confused fear he gave me was a brief, sweet pleasure. I considered shouting at him again, wondering what would happen. Would the wind come again? Would the ground swallow him up? I heard a horse whinnying in panic. People began to pour out of the Aeolian and the other buildings around the courtyard. Musicians looked around wildly, and everyone was talking at once. Was that? Notes all over. Help me before they get... Did it? Him over there? With the red? A demon? A demon of wind? And I looked around in mute confusion until Willem and Sim hurried me away.
It's amazing imagery there. That whole scene played out as a movie in my head just now again. That was awesome.
Yeah, that's one I see like in a movie, like when you have those moments where like there's something like electrified in the air going around, and the wind is, and the way they do it a lot of times is they pan around the guy who is still, but then everything else around him is going fucking crazy, and the camera's fucking like panning around all the way around him and shit. And that's kind of how I envision that when it's going on, like the music sheets flowing around him as this dude's fucking just bringing a force of wind on everybody else. And you know, it's not really impacting him much other than, you know, he takes a step forward, but it's fucking busting everybody else up, especially Ambrose.
Well, it becomes much bigger, at least to me, when a bunch of people are coming out of the Aeolian and other buildings, and they're like, what the fuck was that? You know, so like that, I mean, he has a lot bigger impact. I forget about that because I know it was impactful for everyone in the courtyard there, but the fact that people came out of the buildings, it must have been just massive.
Like a tornado. Fucking just a tornado appeared and disappeared in moments. So you get that, you know, if you've ever been near a tornado, it sounds like a fucking freight train is rolling through your neighborhood. It is. There's nothing, I don't care what, as far as Mother Nature, I've seen hurricanes, fucking real bad storms, earthquakes, a tornado in your neighborhood is something else. That shit is like, what the fuck is that? It sounds like a fucking train is rolling through. So that's kind of how I picture it.
It's also one of the wildest things in terms of what happens to the air, like before it comes.
Yeah.
Like the air feels like it's a charged atmosphere. I mean, I've seen the sky go green before. We're like, what in the fuck is happening right now? Like what is this? And then that you definitely get a warning. That's for sure. They don't just appear out of nowhere. There's a warning, and you have to be real, dense to ignore it. But yeah, I get that feeling here too. Like when we were talking about or what is talked about before he calls the wind, and when Ambrose's friends stop, Willem and Sim kind of hold their breath. I get a feeling like that. That's what I pictured, was that moment before the tornado hits. It's kind of, the air is sort of like charged, and you know something's coming. You don't know what it is, But then, this hits, and it shocks everybody in town.
Yeah, it's an intense scene. That's one of those scenes that I think would be real cool to see how they would do it on a TV show or a movie. They say they're going to make these into like a trilogy or something like that along those lines, 3 or 4 or 5 movies. They really should I really wish they would just do a TV show, because it should be made a series for a TV show.
Yeah, it should be a series. Trying to squeeze everything into a few movies, it's
you're
gonna have to cut so much. Yeah, you have to cut so much in terms of the character arc.
You could easily turn this book into 2 seasons. I mean, there's just so much.
I think if I was writing it for a TV show, I think you'd flesh out the Chandrian a lot more. I think you would show a lot more of the Chandrian, a lot more signs of the Chandrian, a lot more details of the Chandrian than what the books do. The books leave it more in mystery, but for a television show to be able to like picture it, I think there would likely be more. But I mean, regardless of how they do it, I think it's definitely, to me, I mean, with just the length itself, it should be a series.
Yeah,
so
especially like his time at the university. Like, there's just so much stuff you can do with that.
Yeah.
So much.
Yeah,
especially like the sympathy classes and the masters and all the students. And I mean, there's just so much room to play with that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. That was one of my big critiques of, now I can't think of the HBO show. The one where the whole world is like cyborgs. They're all like Westworld. You guys ever see Westworld?
Westworld.
When I heard the premise, when I realized what the premise was for the show, I had to pause it, and my mind just went fucking crazy. I was just reeling from all the possibilities of what you could do. And they really didn't go the route of taking advantage of all that opportunity. Instead, it went much more into like what I felt would have been more appropriate by season 3 or 4. They were doing by episode 2 and 3, or 3 or 4, by the episode instead of the season. So yeah, I mean, I think that's a huge lost opportunity. If you just launch these into movies, and one of the biggest things also for people like us that are such big fans of it, man, you need a big budget to do these justice, man. You're gonna have to do it justice. If you're gonna cut corners,
I mean, a lot of them, a lot of episodes, like you wouldn't need that much CGI. So I don't know that it would necessarily be like this massive budget, but it's just there are scenes that you would need a big budget on certain scenes, but there's not like massive battles where there's like, two armies fighting each other. That stuff's expensive.
Yeah, you got to drop
the draccus. The draccus would be expensive.
Yeah, because you're gonna have to CGI the draccus.
You got to drop some cash for that for the scene with Fella as well, and you got to drop some. Well, I don't know if it'd be that expensive to shoot the the lightning bolt shooting with the whole arrow scene. But it's going to be vitally important that you shoot that well, and you're going to have crazy weather going on and stuff like that. But like when he saves Fella, you're gonna have to drop some dime on that one, because you're gonna have a lot of like I feel like you'd have a lot of like on set fire and things like that having to occur if you're gonna make it look really believable. So I don't know.
I wish that's the route they would go. I think they're gonna go the movie route, and I'll still go fucking watch the movies. I mean, they'll just be truncated versions of the books, but they could still be really good. I mean, you could just take the best fucking storylines of the book and fucking make a great movie with them. It's just you're losing a lot, but you're gonna kick up a shit ton of dust on the Reddit threads. Well, it doesn't matter what you cut. Dude, anything that gets cut, everybody will be like, big mistake. Even if you do a TV show, if there's any change whatsoever, people are gonna fucking complain.
You're never gonna please it'll never happen. No. But yeah, there's always that guy that's going to complain, even if it's the the best you can imagine adaptation of it. Still, someone's going to complain, because that's just what people do. But I would much rather. I mean, shit, man. For me personally, I want it to be the longest series that it could possibly be. Man, I want all of it. Yeah. I want Puppet to have his own show, man. But that's not likely going to happen. But yeah, I mean that's my whole thing is with all of it. I mean. I hope the third book is 3,000 pages,
Yeah, they could make a killer video game out of this stuff too.
Yeah, absolutely.
They could keep it all in on a video game.
Yeah,
Every
all the
little
leveling
nook
up
and
and
cranny of the
everything
book.
too. Yeah, I mean, it seems like it'd be easy to do. But yeah, so then they bring him to Kilvin, and so as Kvothe is sitting there and they're kind of telling Kilvin what the fuck happened, he's like, my throat was sore, my body was weary and full of sour adrenaline. In the middle of it all, deep in the center of my chest, a piece of me burned in anger like a forge coal fanned red and hot. All around me there was great numbness, as if I were sealed in wax 10 inches thick. There was no Kvothe, only the confusion, the anger, and the numbness wrapping them. I was like a sparrow in a storm, unable to find a safe branch to cling to, unable to control the tumbling motion of my flight. So I thought it was interesting that he's like, there was no Kvothe, because when we're getting into the bar, there's something going on, and this is like a sense of that where when his sleeping mind is taken over, he's not the same person. And so it's just another kind of call to that there are different states where you're not yourself anymore. Like when you're locked behind the doors of sleep or madness or whatever, you're not really like your same person. And so even in this situation, when the sleeping mind is taken over, you're not the same guy. Something else is taken over.
Yeah, that struck me too. Just him saying, I like the description of his anger. The glowing amber and all the rest. No Kvothe, just himself wrapped in this blanket of anger and frustration. But that was the biggest part that struck me about it, was that he said there was no Kvothe, and I have to think that there's something more to that.
It kind of reminded me to a degree like of Heart of Stone. Obviously, he doesn't have the control that he has with Heart of Stone, but it's a complete 100% focus on the emotion in itself. It's just, the anger takes over. It's completely taken over. It's running the show, and he's just kind of the vessel where this is just tumbling around in his psychosis, and he's just like living in that state. It's pretty wild to consider. It's great how Rothfuss, sort of did that out and put it in front of us.
It's pretty great too when Elodin steps in. I love the description of it when he's like, he looked at me, his dark eyes steadied me somewhat, slowed the storm inside me. Airless Veti, he said. Say it. What? Simmons said somewhere in the distant background. Wind? Airless Veti, Elodin repeated patiently, his dark eyes intent upon my face. Airless Veti, I said numbly. Elodin closed his eyes briefly, peacefully, as if he were trying to catch a faint strain of music wafting gently on a breeze. Unable to see his eyes, I began to drift. I looked back down toward the broken lute in my hands, but before my gaze wounded too far, he caught my chin again, tilting my face up. His eyes caught mine. The numbness faded, but the storm still turned inside my head. Then Elodin's eyes changed. He stopped looking toward me and looked into me. This is the only way I can describe it. He looked deep into me, not into my eyes, but through my eyes. His gaze went into me and set solidly in my chest, as if he had both hands inside me, feeling the shape of my lungs, the movement of my heart, the heat of my anger, the pattern of the storm that thundered inside me. He leaned forward and his lips brushed my ear. I felt his breath. He spoke, and a storm stilled. I found a place to land.
So do you think he spoke Kvothe's true name?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure what he said there. Probably like Jack in the Box.
That's what I thought.
Like number 6.
I did think it was kind of interesting, the Airless Veti thing, and Simmon, saying, "Oh, wind." Like, so it's some language that Simmon knows.
No. That he said, Airless Veti is the actual name of wind. But this is like when.
Oh yeah. So he hears.
Yeah,
wind.
he hears the calling name, but Elodin said the real name.
Hears.
Yeah,
but Kvothe hears Airless Veti.
Yes.
Interesting. Yeah.
So yeah, that's another call to when that's like when Elodin said, or no, it was the master. Uxadal, when Uxadal called the name of fire,
fire.
and Kvothe's like,
Yeah.
the name of fire is fire, and he's like, that's not actually what I said, but the fact that you heard fire is probably a good sign. So that's a good sign for Sem that he heard wind.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he fucking settles him down. Then I also like the description when he's like, when you're spinning around as a little kid,
Yeah,
it's like
it's
then you
great.
stop and the world lurches into regular shape. The dizziness strikes you like a thunderclap. Everything lurches, moves. The world tilts around you. That is what happened when Elodin stilled the storm in my head. Suddenly, violently dizzy, I cried out and raised my hands to keep myself from falling sideways, falling upward, falling inward. I felt arms catch me as my feet tangled in the stool and I began to topple to the floor. It was terrifying, but it faded. By the time I recovered, Elodin was gone. And I love that Elodin fucking comes in, fucking does his thing, saves him, and then fucking dips out. It's like, all right, peace.
I do like that description a lot because he doesn't just describe, when you're a kid and you spin around. It's you spin around and it causes dizziness and the world's spinning around you, or you're spinning around and then you continue and then it stops that you're spinning. It's the world that's spinning around you. And then you stop and it all lurches back together and it's hugely disorienting. It's so great, man, because like that writing literally put me in that.
Yeah.
And it made me picture that. And I couldn't tell you the last time I did something like that. I mean, it's been decades,
Yeah.
But it was really interesting to go there because it takes you there because at some point in your life you did it and then you think about it and you're there with him, but you're also with the imagery of, stilling the storm in his head, suddenly violently dizzy, his arms flailing out and all that type of stuff. It's it's almost like kind of sickening to picture. It's extraordinarily effective and it's very intense.
Relaying this to it being the name of the book, and also just the amount of weight that Kvothe places on this instance, from start to finish, the moment that he says, the name of the wind and the effect that it has on Ambrose and the people around him, and also the effect that it has on Kvothe from the moment that it happens. I mean, right when it happens, all we know is, he's pissed off. It's a great description of how mad he is. But then, like that, we get silence where Kvothe is not there anymore, and he's mute and he's somewhat blank to the world. And then as Elodin brings him back into reality or takes him out of that state, the disarray that it sends Kvothe into to be pulled out of that state abruptly, it makes me wonder, just what's happened. Not just, yes, Kvothe is called the wind, controlled the wind, but there's something way bigger that's going on. It's somehow his shook not only Kvothe out of his own body reality, but also the world around him, and everybody else too. The people who've seen it happen, and only someone who's a wizard brings him can steady things, and that does. And then Kvothe goes and sleeps for 18 hours straight.
Well, it seems like the type of thing that if Elodin doesn't show up, he ends up in the rookery.
Yeah.
Well,
absolutely.
And I like the description Willem gives. It's great. I mean, it's great for us to be able to picture. He looks at you, but nothing is there. His eyes are like a dog's eyes. I mean, actually remind me of the way they describe Sid Barrett. His eyes are like clouds in the sky, or however that is. But yeah, I mean, just that sense. It's like that's a dude in a catatonic state that ends up in an insane asylum, and he's just staring at a wall.
And it's interesting too, because like none of the other masters, like when Kvothe brings up the sleeping mind to Uxadal, when Uxadal calls the name of fire for him, Kvothe brings up the name of the wind. I mean, the sleeping mind to Uxadal, and Uxadal is like, "What?" and he has to explain
Huh.
to him, and he's like, "Oh, yeah, whatever." And it shows you like Loden's the only one that really has a grasp of what is going on, to the point where he has a way to kind of differentiate the two different mindsets,
Yeah.
like your
Yeah, it sounds like
instinctual side versus your waking mind side, when your rational thought, your thought process normal, but the animal instinct side of you is a totally different thing, and it's obviously way more powerful in their world than our world. My animal instinct's
that's
pretty powerful, but I mean it's way very powerful in their world.
that's really interesting that how there's a differentiation there. I hadn't thought about that. So Elk Zadal's capable of still getting to places near to. Now we know he's nowhere close to a Loden because he doesn't know nearly as many names of things, but he's able to get there, even not getting there the way that a Loden does.
Correct.
Loden's
Yeah.
teaching Kvothe the old school, it seems like, or at least his version of it. And I mean, that's kind of how the world works for any of us, right? We're all doing the best we can. We can read Plato and Aristotle and all these different people and try to form, a way to understand the world and psychology and culture and all those things. But we're all still doing it on our own. It's how it can be communicated in our own minds that we can wrap our minds around of what this is.
Yeah, and it's similar to, like, I mean, you can learn a subject and you can understand it yourself. And so you can think through the process, you can understand what you're reading, but then if you tried to have to teach it to someone, you have to know it
How
on
well
a
do you
different
know it?
level to be
Yeah.
able to
Yeah,
teach
exactly.
a subject. Even if you understand it when you're reading it, all of it makes sense, it's all clicking, but then when someone asks you to explain it, then you can see that gap of where the limit to your knowledge really is. It's like being able to teach something is much different than understanding something, and so that's kind of their knowledge, their ability to speak names is very surface level. They can speak them, they know what they're doing as far as that goes, but explaining it to someone, they can't even begin to explain it.
What's so interesting about that also, and that's why the stop grabbing my tits thing is so great, because it quantifies the challenge of trying to learn it.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's so difficult to explain how it works, and the routes that a Loden takes seem completely absurd to someone who's even trying. Right? Kvothe's a hard nut to crack in that sense, though, because he wants it clear, he wants it explained. You can explain everything. Well, we'll get to that in a minute, but it's so great because we get the challenge with being there as Kvothe, and you sort of, in a way, once you, especially on additional read-throughs, you realize Kvothe, just, dude, stop trying so hard. Like, allow like the understanding to come to you, and that's what Loden's trying to do. But it's very much like it's. Rothfuss does a lot of interesting things here because he's playing on a philosophical type of plane with that difference of being able to understand how this works. And this leads in perfectly to what we're talking about, leads in perfectly to the next chapter, in which case we're getting all this laid out in front of us through Loden's explanations. And it's also interesting that he's tried to a certain degree to give this to Kvothe before. But it is one of those great circumstances where even if someone explains it to you, unless you're ready to receive it, it's not going to matter, right? And we get that here as well. And again, that speaks to understanding philosophy or trying to understand philosophical notions. Unless you're ready to take it in, unless you've gotten those building blocks to get there, it's not going to communicate to you. You're not going to be ready to absorb it.
Yeah, and the big difference between a Loden and all the other masters, or at least all the other people who know the names of things, it's Elk Zadal has an understanding, a great understanding, a thorough understanding of fire, and so he knows the name of it. And whereas a Loden, he understands the nature of naming, and so all the things, it's like, I don't know how to put it into words better than that it's an understanding of one small aspect of the subject or the subject itself on a whole level that a Loden gets.
Yeah, and that's
the
difficulty,
the connected tissue of things.
Yeah, and the difficulty in teaching that is you're not teaching a subject that your rational, well thought out mind is not. It's not even capable of doing this. So you have to teach
it's kind of in
you have to
opposition.
teach the animal instinct mind. So it's not. It's not even like. It's not even teaching it. It's working out. It's like learning the muscle memory of how to throw punches and stuff. It's not just enough to be like, okay, you throw a right hook, and the way you throw a right hook is you turn your arm this way. Like, that's not gonna. You could tell someone how to throw a right hook, but the only way to be good at throwing a right hook is to get that muscle memory and to fucking throw fucking right hooks and get that coordination, that muscle memory. So he's trying to get their unconscious mind to learn something, and their conscious mind gets in the way of the teaching process. So it's makes it extremely difficult. If you were trying to teach something and you only are trying to reach the unconscious mind, it'd be very difficult.
It's kind of like like with the Matrix. When Neo goes into the Matrix, he's learning how the world works and what the rules are and the parameters, and he's doing kung fu and all that. But then he ends up understanding the Matrix itself.
Yeah.
So that's how he can break the rules. That's your Morpheus's line of, "You're faster than this. Don't think you are, know you are." So it's kind of that inner dilemma that you then broaden things out.
Yeah,
and that's where
he stole the
Elodin
Matrix too. Or he homaged the Matrix.
Yeah.
This fucking dude. Every fucking
when did he write
movie.
this? Are you sure? When did he write it? No, he'll probably claim he's never seen The Matrix, just like he's never read Game
Matrix
of Thrones.
came out way before.
Uh-huh.
But no, he's never seen any movies.
Yeah.
He's never read any books either.
Yeah. Never. I didn't. I
all
thought
those homages? No.
I
don't know what an homage is. What's an homage?
I thought
Jack in the Box.
I thought I was the first person to write a book. I thought I invented the subject.
The medium itself.
Yeah.
He invented that as well. Nah, it's great, man. I like the. I hadn't thought about that quite as much. I mean, you see it much more clearly, I think, with Kilvin, because he's so engineering, mathematical sort of application. But the way that Elodin looks at it, and Elodin's above and beyond all these guys. And he's younger than all of them. So it seems like, he's also, I don't know if there's a bloodline thing going on with him as well. Well, obviously we don't really know, but we know he was 14 when he's blowing their nips off. So, and the fact that he's able to accomplish all those things basically at a younger age than Kvothe, I mean, it's great. It's my favorite character, man. It's such a great delivery mechanism. He represents such a great delivery mechanisms for some of the most interesting dynamics that play out in the books.
Elodin blew their nips off, and Kvothe fucking got them to all shit their pants.
Domino effect, baby. One leads to the other.
What if instead of him having a hot foot, it was a poop pants?
That's gonna be Rothfuss is gonna write in a scene in the next book, and Kvothe's gonna be like, "Hey, what up, nipple blast?" And he's like, "Hey," and Elodin will shoot back like, "Hey, what's up, shit pants?" It's gonna be. I love. That's how he's gonna tie it in. Give us a little wink.
I love picturing him now, instead of like the hot foot thing where his face gets all red. Instead, he has to like quench his butt cheeks together, and he puts his hand by it.
Yeah.
He runs up to the front of the room,
waddles off the stage.
Oh man, that's a funny image. Oh man.
And then when he's on the horns, he's like, "Guys, he made me poop myself.
It's like hot lava.
It's malfeasance."
I still have
no,
scars.
It's not funny. My butthole, it felt like hot lava. Like it's fucking burnt. It's literally burnt.
He has to sit. So, like, when he comes in, he has to bring one of those
those
circular
little
things.
donuts.
Yeah, you got to sit on. Actually, Brandur has to, like, carry it and blow it up for him.
And Lode and the other guys are chuckling as he comes in. He's like, "It's not funny, guys. My butthole hurts."
Yeah, whatever, lava
that's so
ass.
good.
I need this.
That just becomes somebody getting hemmed up. Just means they got pooped. They pooped their pants. Oh, you got hemmed again? Haha.
What up, lava shit?
I'll be back, guys. I'm all hemmed up.
Oh man.
All right, that was pretty. That's it for me on that chapter.
Yeah, I think so.
All right, then. Chapter 85 is dubbed Hands Against Me. Kvothe sleeps for the next 18 hours. When he awakens, he is ushered into the horns, in and onto the horns, for the crime of malfeasance, and to accuse Ambrose of theft amongst other crimes. After it all, Ambrose is fined about 10 talents, and Kvothe is to receive 6 lashes and be expelled.
Yeah, and I like, in the very beginning, we get another one of those subtle hints towards the biggest mystery of the book when he's like, Simon and Willem took me to my room at Anchors where I fell asleep and fell into the bed and spent 18 hours behind the doors of sleep. When I woke the next day, I felt surprisingly good considering I'd slept in my clothes and my bladder felt stretched to the size of a sweet melon. So they do have bladders. It's a very big hint towards
Can be
they need
anything in a
bathroom
bladder,
break.
though.
So yeah, their bladder could function in a totally different way. So it doesn't necessarily mean that they pee, but they do have bladders, and it was full from not sleeping.
Yeah.
So
well,
it's a big hint.
Even oil derricks or oil barges have bladders. I mean, a lot of things have bladders. Who knows what that could be for? Nothing concrete, I'll tell you that.
No, it's very subtle. It's very subtle, and it's only implications. We still don't have a clear answer. But he keeps hinting at it. He keeps hinting at it.
Rothfuss does just such an amazing job. Just really great how he brings mystery into these.
Yeah, you could take it, any number of different ways. There's so many different ways you could take all these things. And
you really could.
But yeah,
so then I was just gonna say the horns hits like a fucking. At least when I read it, it was like, oh shit. I mean, it hits like because he slept, wakes up, boom, you're in trouble, buddy. Let's go back to the horns again.
Yeah,
so it hits like
a
big boom.
Yeah, and then
especially because we know that he's facing expulsion.
Yeah, because like Ambrose accused him of malfeasance, and then he accused him of theft, destruction of property, and conduct unbecoming a member of the Arcanum. And then you get the, call back to like after the first time he was on the horns, and he's like, "What book is fucking Master Lauren reading from?"
Yeah.
And then he's like, what was it? The
Reread Codex.
After my previous experience on the horns, I had familiarized myself with the Reread Codex, the university's official rules. I had read them twice to be certain of how things were done around here. I knew them like the back of my hands. Unfortunately, this meant I knew exactly how much trouble I was in. The charge of malfeasance was a serious one. If they found me guilty of intentionally harming Ambrose, I would be whipped and expelled from the university.
Well, and what's interesting is right after that, Ambrose comes in with his arm in a sling and all that garbage. But we do see, he's bruised and limping, red abrasion coloring his forehead. So, he did some damage, which we feel good about. But we also learn, which we wouldn't know this, that he doesn't remember at all what happened.
No, he
hasn't had the opportunity to speak with anybody. Yeah, so he hasn't had an explanation of what happened, none of it. So he's just coming in basically blank, like, here's fucked up Ambrose, and here I am. I guess let's see what's going on.
But does he not have a memory of it, or does he just not know what he did?
I'm sure he knows, he remembers it. It just seems like he doesn't understand it. He doesn't know exactly what happened. Not necessarily.
Yeah, he said, I didn't have the slightest didn't have the slightest idea what had really happened.
Yeah.
So I would assume he knows what happened, but not
why
really
it
went
happened.
on.
Yeah, he doesn't know what he
Yeah.
did. And then you get I like the back and forth with him, with Kvothe and Master Him here, where he's we should pare the charges down before we vote. And he's like, the charges are redundant. And when Kvothe's like, nah, he's like, you're wrong. And they're like, well, hey, like, stubbornness in the face of reason, isn't laudable. And he's like, no, you're wrong too. And it's like, no, it's not fucking stubbornness. He's like, you guys just don't get it. He's like, he's like, theft implies acquisition of another's property. It's ridiculous to imply you cannot destroy what you have stolen. So I love that aspect of where the masters come at him, and he's not just like, you're wrong. He's like, no, the position you guys are accepting and that you're telling me is stubborn to not accept is ridiculous. It's not just wrong, it's ridiculous. It's absurd, you morons. But he sways him on it. When he goes through, he's like, not only did he fucking steal it, he broke it. He's like, it'd be one thing if I lent it to him and then he broke it, or if he stole it and then he gave it back unharmed. But no, he did both. He broke it and he fucking stole it. And so he sways him on it, and it's great, like, that he convinces them with the argument. And not only that, like, he fucking says that, that his loot was worth 9 talents and 6. He said, I lied knowing it to be a reasonable price. Ambrose roused himself at this. Come now, you've never held 10 talents in your life. And then Brandor raised a hand to speak. Relar Ambrose does raise an interesting point. How does a student who came to us destitute come by such money? A few of the masters looked at me speculatively. I looked down as if embarrassed. I wanted playing corners, sir. And then fucking, they all start fucking smirking or laughing, like Elodin, like, outwardly laughs. And he fucking gets him on it. He gets the 9 and 6 plus, because he convinces him of his argument that he did both. He gets another 10 and 6 on top of it. So he gets like fucking 20 talents out of it.
Yeah, it's fucking great how it ends up working out, but this makes me dislike Brandor so much more, because this is like the only time he ever says anything, and the only thing he brings up is like some dickhead fucking move, like, well, yeah, so how would you do that? How did you have the money? It's like, fuck you, dude. I was wondering, though,
but he's
also,
right. Like, Kvothe is lying out of his ass. Yeah. Like, he calls him on his fucking lie, because like he's fucking clearly lying. But they can't prove it.
I was wondering though, who's the half vote?
The Chancellor. The Chancellor gets 1.5.
Okay.
So, like, if there's only 8 votes, there can be no tie. Or if there's only 6 votes, there can be no tie.
He sways it. I thought
it's
it was
unnecessary with 9 votes, with 9 people. But if Elodin wasn't there, because, like, clearly Elodin's not always there. So, like, if there's an even number of masters, then the Chancellor breaks ties.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of interesting that Lauren voted against him twice, and then voted in favor in the end, which I thought that was kind of interesting from Lauren's part.
You mean in favor of him not being expelled?
Yeah, but he voted against him twice.
Yeah, like on the grievance of theft, Lauren kept his hand down. But then it was on what was... Oh, it was when Kvothe, on the next thing, after he goes through those 2 things, and then he's like, punishment sought, suspension from the Arcanum. This was a conduct unbecoming. He's like, punishment sought, suspension from the Arcanum. I said as if it was the most sensible thing in the world. Ambrose composure broke it. What?
So great.
He said incredulously, turning to face me. Him chimed in, Herma, this is growing ridiculous. The Chancellor looked at me with a tinge of reproach. I'm afraid I must agree with Master Him, Alir Kvothe. I hardly think this is grounds for suspension. And Kvothe wins over a lot of them with this argument where he's like, think on what you've heard. For no other reason than his personal distaste for me, Ambrose chose to publicly mock me, then steal and destroy the only thing I owned of any value. Is this the sort of behavior that a member of the Arcanum should exhibit? Is this the attitude you wish to cultivate in the rest of the Relar? are petty, meanness, and spite characteristics you approve of in students who seek to become arcanists. It has been 200 years since we've seen an arcanist burned. If you succeed in giving guilders to petty children such as this, I gestured to Ambrose, that long-standing peace and safety will be over in a scant handful of years. It swayed them. And so then it was Arwell's hand went up, followed by Lauren's, Elodin, and Elxadal's. And so all he needed was, Kilvin or the Chancellor to raise their hand, and that would have got fucking Ambrose suspended. But
so great.
I think, Chancellor, like the Chancellor and Kilvin, I think, are thinking about the practicality of suspending a noble as powerful as the Jackass family.
It's so funny, man, because I've read this multiple times, but I I take the ride every time. Like Kvothe goes for no lashes. I'm like, wait, what? Like they're all kind of like look at each other like no lashes. Okay, that's interesting. And then we find out why. He wants him suspended. And then you're like, well, okay, all right. Yeah. Like let's take it up a notch. And then yeah, he almost gets it. I love when he calls him a petty child. Not only is it great because he gets to call him a petty child in front of all these guys, he's fucking right. These are the acts of a petty child. That this is, 100%. Like, so, here's your thing, and then throws it. I mean, that is a petty, childish thing to do.
And he's right about Ambrose. Ambrose is not only, petty, he's vindictive and he's violent, and he will do fucking, he will go to crazy lengths to spite someone or to fucking, like that girl that fucking said, was going around saying Ambrose was going to marry her. She fucking just disappears. Like, this dude will go to fucking crazy lengths to fuck someone up. Like, or that one guy that pissed him off, like, he fucking buys up all his debt and fucking has him thrown into debtor's prison. Like, he's a fucking prick. And a dangerous prick.
So, why doesn't Kilvin vote to have him suspended?
I think it's the practicality of, what are the ramifications of suspending someone of the Jackass, and it's Jackass, but the Jackass family.
Real quick, I just want to deal with that for a second because I see that as being a huge reason, and I know Kilvin is quite practical. But I feel like Lauren would be even more so. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think, like I said, I think Lauren is likely a member of the Emir, and I get a very Emir sense of things when he's doing his calculations on justice. So he doesn't agree with them that Ambrose should be guilty of theft. He thinks he's guilty of destruction of property, so he votes on one but not the other. But on this, like, I think he's thinking of the greater good. Like, this kid should not fucking be an arcanist, and so he votes to suspend Ambrose.
So he's swayed by that rather than the ramifications of kicking this fucker out, because he will lash back. There will be blowback.
Yeah. And if so it makes perfect sense that Lauren would be willing to be like, yeah, whatever the ramifications for it, still for the greater good, this kid needs to be out of here. Whereas Kilvin might be thinking like, it's either, I would think either Kilvin's thinking like, this is going to be bad for the university, so let's not do this. Or Kilvin's thinking that put your feelings aside about Ambrose and who he is. The punishment for conduct unbecoming should not be suspension from expulsion. The university. So it's either one of the two. I think with Kilvin, it's either the practical side, like I don't think he should be suspended for what he did. Leave all the other shit aside, or I don't the penalty that we're gonna suffer for fucking suspending this kid is it doesn't make sense. Let's fucking move on. Let's get the fuck out of here.
It's such a great this whole threat is fantastic. It's almost like I forget it exists, and then when it comes back in, it's like, oh, it's not just a threat, because we always feel this threat for Kvothe, but it's like, oh shit, this can actually be. This is leveraged against other people. I mean, everybody's at risk of this. It's great. And also how he does it with like, each name getting named on the voting.
The way the chapter ends is fucking awesome because Ambrose lashes sought. He says 6. Could have. I think it was between like 2 and 15 or something, and he chose 6. But then it was him right
before we move on. Can I make a point real quick? Just this along the same lines of with why he didn't get expelled. Not why Ambrose didn't get suspended. Did you guys pick up the first part of Kvothe's argument and then everything after the theft part? All was exactly what Kvothe did to Ambrose when he made the song Jackass, Jackass. Because he goes into saying, this petty public humiliation. And anyway, when the whole time he was explaining that, I was immediately brought back to what Kvothe was brought up on charges the first time. And it being kind of the exact same scenario that because Kvothe, had a personal vendetta and was petty and publicly humiliated Ambrose, so on and so forth.
Yeah, but the big difference is Kvothe didn't take Ambrose's worldly value and destroy it. That's the huge difference. It's the only thing that he has of value, and he fucking destroyed it. It's not just that he made some jokes about him and made fun of him. Like if it wouldn't have been like if Ambrose had came up with his own fucking lute and fucking sang a song about him, then that would be the same. But he took Kvothe's lute and he fucking broke it, and that's the only thing Kvothe has of value. I mean, this kid doesn't have fucking change of clothes. It's a massive difference. This is how he survives. This is how he fucking has a place to live. Like you're not only fucking breaking his loot, you're destroying his ability to fucking feed himself and clothe himself and to fucking have a place to sleep.
There's a big difference when you take someone's possession and then destroy it versus you're writing a song about somebody to make fun of them. And yeah, maybe you could be arguing that you're damaging his name, but it's a song. They laugh about it. They're all like, most of the masters are like, this is a fucking joke. What are we doing here? This is stupid. Why are we being involved in this? It's completely different when you're breaking someone's literal object. And by the way, it's never Kvothe. He's not bringing him up on charges. It's always Ambrose bringing him up on charges.
And not only is because it doesn't seem like Kvothe would have fucking gone after Ambrose. He did it in retaliation, but he may have. We don't know. Like because Kvothe does think about like when Ambrose uses malfeasance against him, he thinks about going to the masters about it, but then decides against it because it would have came back on him. But it's not just destroying an object of his, it's just destroying his livelihood. Like, this is how this guy survives. This is fucking his ability to, this is like not only destroying an object, this is like going in someone's place of work and just burning down their business.
Well, as you say that, though, it's kind of interesting that wasn't presented. He didn't argue that.
Well, he's like, it's the only thing I own of value, and so
I hear you. But it would have made his case stronger. Yeah. It would have made his case stronger if he would have said, "This is how I make anything. Yeah. This is how other than working at the fishery, this is it. Because I can make money playing music."
Yeah.
And to back up you guys' point, that I'm surprised that Kvothe didn't bring up just how damaging the song was that Ambrose sang.
Oh yeah,
and how
he
when
fucking
that song
dissed the shit out of
gets
him.
Around,
he fucking murdered him.
I'm emotionally distraught.
He murdered him with lyrics. Lyrically, fucking just spit hot fire at him.
It would have been kind of funny if he's like, you know what? I think we need to sing. Ambrose, can you take it from here? Go ahead.
Yeah, surprisingly,
so everybody gets to hear it.
Surprisingly, Elodin didn't sing the lyrics back to Kvothe as he was walking him out of the hall.
Yeah, that's fucking great.
Quick with quipping.
Quick with
but
quipping.
Then
and he compliments him. That's even a compliment.
Yeah, I know.
Fucking jackass.
But then,
Fucking
yeah,
amateur
then so
hour.
he gets the 6 lashes sought, and then it was him raised his hand, Brandor and All World followed. My heart sank as I saw the Chancellor raise his hand, and Lauren, and Kilvin, and Elxadal. Last of all was Elodin, who smiled lazily and waggled fingers of his upraised hand as if waving. All 9 hands against me. I was expelled from the university. My life was over.
Yeah, man. It's so great that he does it like this because we've had this before. We've had this before where he was expelled and then they retracted it, but it just doesn't fucking matter. You're still like, holy shit, he's fucking done, man. And I love the way Elodin,
Yeah.
it like playfully. Oh, you're fucked.
Yeah, he's like, he's always having fun. Wow, Kvothe, his fucking
great.
life's on the line.
He really is just the best. He's the best character, man. So great.
But yeah,
No, I do love, especially the way that Rothfuss does deliver it. The fact that it's not just all their hands went up. It's him, then Brandor, then Arwol, then these are all like separate sentences. So it makes you kind of take the ride there. It's fucking great,
Mandrake
man.
always gets short shrifted. He's hardly ever brought up.
Yeah, it's true.
And who was the other one? The Brandor, Arwell, Lauren, Kilvin, Elxadal, him. There's 9 masters. One of them's we're forgetting one.
Him, Brandor, Arwol, Chancellor, Lauren, Kilvin, Mandrake, Elxadal, Elodin.
I can't think of who we're missing other than Mandrake. It's gonna drive me nuts. But yeah, we're missing one.
What are you talking about? That's 9.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Hem, Brandor, Arwol.
5,
That's 3.
7,
Chancellor,
8.
Lauren,
Yeah,
Kilvin,
okay,
6,
yeah, he named all but
Mandrake,
Mandrake.
Elxadal, Elodin.
Yep. So yeah, he named 8 of the 9. Mandrake getting short shrifted.
Nah, he named them all, dude. He named all 9 of them. When he's talking about when he got expelled, he named all 9 of them.
Where's he named Mandrake?
Hem raised his hand. Brandor and Arwol followed. My heart sank as I saw the Chancellor raise his hand, and Lauren, and Kilvin, and Mandrake, and Elxadal. Last of all was Elodin, who smiled lazily and waggled his finger.
It says Mandrake in your book?
Yeah.
Oh, it doesn't say it in the.
Gotta get that new copy, dude.
Goodreads. Is it Goodreads?
No, like in the Kindle book version. It does not say Mandrake.
Mine
Get your
won
money back.
Mine won the Quill Award. You should read this one.
Yeah.
It's better.
It's funny that they like the Kindle version took Mandrake out there. Like, fuck Mandrake. I hate Mandrake. Fucking take his name out. Like,
I will tell you.
Why would we take his name? Fuck Mandrake. I hate that motherfucker. Take his name out.
I will tell you, it fucking
Stupid
bothers
name
me.
Anyway.
It really fucking bothers me because you take a single word out of any, it changes the way it's read, man. It fucking bothers me. But whatever. Mine doesn't have that. You should get the.
I have that. I have that. I have the book. I have the book version, but it's much easier to do
here's
notes
the thing.
with
Hey, Tim,
with
how do you know?
Kindle.
How do you know they didn't add it to yours? Maybe they're like, "Hey, that's only 8. Who they missing? Oh, it's Mandrake. Let me just add that in here real quick."
Yeah, they edit it. I think I found.
But yeah,
one
it would be so
typo.
hard to edit a digital version. You just could never do it. It's way easier to edit a fucking physical
the
book
print.
copy. Yeah.
Yeah.
They just couldn't do it with the digital.
A 721 page book is easier to edit. I will say though, I have only found I think one typo in The Name of the Wind, and I don't remember where it was, but I remember a single typo. But so they did a decent job.
You should send Rothfuss an email. Actually,
no, Jesus Christ, yeah, that's how it would start. I have a lot of problems with your holes, but outside of that, let's just talk about this one typo that is your fault. You should be more careful, Patty.
Really,
What's your
like
problem?
I was with you on the book most of the way, but you fucking ruined it. You used the wrong there, and now I think you're a stupid person.
It's not even. Yeah, it's like a little small thing for sure, but But I think that's all I have
Yeah, that was
for,
it for me on that
said chapter. Leaves it on a big fucking cliffhanger.
Chapter 86, The Fire Itself. We quickly learn that Kvothe has been expelled ostensibly, and actually, to Kvothe's relief, exalted to the rank of Relar. Kvothe and Elodin go for a stroll as Elodin attempts to explain what it means to be a namer. Guys.
Yeah.
Dude, I love this shit. I love that it goes from he's gone, and then, I mean, this has happened to us before, but we get pulled back and forth so artfully by Rothfuss with, all right, his life's over. And then, just kidding, he gets a bunch of money and gets promoted to the next, the next level.
Yeah.
It's fucking great, man. So great.
And I like we've talked about before, just because we're here. He mentions like I got expelled at a younger age than most people get admitted. It's such a monumental moment that if he's not referring to this, I just seems like such a waste, because if he gets expelled again, like he's going to be 18, 19 years old, 20, like that's not that abnormal. Getting expelled here at 15, getting whipped 6 times, getting promoted to Relar, that's worthy of a story. That's worthy of mention.
Yeah.
Like that like I feel like this has to be that moment. But I do like when it starts off, does any master oppose this action? The Chancellor asked ritualistically as I looked down at my feet. I do. The stirring voice could only be Elodin's. All in favor of expulsion? All in favor of suspending expulsion? I looked up again in time to see Elodin's hand, Elsadal's, Kelvin's, Lauren, the Chancellor, all hands save him's. And I love it's only him fucking doesn't raise his hand. Like he's just, yeah. I just picture him with like his hands crossed, like,
grumbling.
Yeah.
I don't like
this. He's such a fucking monumental prick, dude. Just like, what a fucking
such
asshole.
A great moment, because then they're like, all right, expulsion repealed.
Yeah.
Are there any further issues? I caught an odd note in the Chancellor's voice. He was expecting something. It was Elodin who spoke. I move that Kvothe be raised to the rank of Relar. All in favor? All hands save him's were raised in a single motion. Kvothe is raised to Relar with Elodin as sponsor on the 5th of Fallow. Meeting adjourned. And then fucking Ambrose, what?
That's so
fucking goes running after him. Fucking like a little fucking
brat.
Bitch.
Yeah, the little brat can't control himself.
I love it.
He can't control it.
Kvothe fucking slams Ambrose to the ground, fucks him up. He gets 20 talents out of it. He gets raised to the rank of Relar. And, gets his sentence suspended. Like, he fucking makes out like a bandit. He gets the 6 lashes, dude. So he still gets, still gets the punishment. But, again, every time, like, they fucking think they got him, it works out in his advantage, overall.
Dude, he builds his legend out further. He names the wind in public in front of everyone. He fucks up Ambrose, the little brat that everyone fucking hates, but nobody has the balls to take on. I mean, he wins in so many ways from this. And what's so great about it is at the beginning, you're like, oh shit, he's fucked. He lost everything. Yeah. And it's the opposite.
He gets 20 talents and a promotion.
Hey, speaking of that, did 2 quick questions. Did Kvothe get the entire 20 talents, or just the 8, just the 10 and 6? And how much did Kvothe originally pay for that?
He got both. He got the 9 and 6 plus the 10 and 6. So he got 20 talents.
That's a good question. And I can't remember how much he paid for it.
Oh, like when he originally, I think he paid like 2 or 3 talents.
Yeah. I remember he kind of got over on the guy because the guy didn't know anything about the instrument.
He ends up paying quite a bit for the next loot he gets, which will be in book 2. But he ends up paying a good penny, because he's penny poor again very quickly. Like in the second book, it starts off with him being fucking broke again. So
Yeah, but he gets like I'm pretty sure he gets like a Les Paul in the next one, right?
he gets a what?
A Les Paul.
I don't know what the fuck a Les
It's like
Paul
Is that like a Stradivarius?
It's a very expensive guitar.
Fucking
He
nerd.
gets an Ilian Stradivarius. Fucking nerd, because I know what a Les Paul guitar is.
Yeah.
What the
fucking
fuck?
nerd, fucking loser.
Any reference
Yeah.
that Dan doesn't know, it's just like you suck. Fuck you.
You're a dork.
Fucking nerd. Fucking losers. You talk about something I know.
Something you do know, coming up here is absolutely fucking tremendous. We get so much world building, what we just talked about in terms of the psychological aspects of the sleeping mind and how all this works from Elodin. This walk with Elodin's tremendous. And I was gonna say, dude, like this chapter, the next chapter, do a fucking tremendous job of leading into book 2, of leading into the next book, because we get, these two other like planes of reality that hadn't really necessarily occurred to us or haven't really been fleshed out yet. And he does it. It's fantastic. And the fact that he does it towards the end of the book, it puts these seeds in your mind of like, okay, so where's this going to go? And you get it towards the end of the book, and it's fucking great, dude. So it's like this is, fresh in your mind about, all right, so now I want to read about this,
Well, it's great too.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you get a couple big things. You get like, do you know what Relar means? Translates as speaker. Do you know what it means? Not really. And he tells him, once upon a time there was a university. It was built in the dead ruins of an older university. It wasn't very big, perhaps 50 people in all. But that part I think is noteworthy because he says it was built in the dead ruins of an older university. So I think he could be referring to like the underthing and that they started a university there, and then it just like they built a much bigger university on top of that university later on. But I think he's likely referring to the underthing when he's talking about like once upon a time there was a university. It was built in the dead ruins of an older university.
I love the analogy that he uses is so great. In those days, the Arcanum was a strong brandy. Now it is well-watered wine.
Yeah.
And it's just that reference to the men who, so basically it was very small. It was a small group, which was a private group of Arcanists inside the university. So you have the university. It sounds like it was small to begin with, but then you have a smaller sector or smaller group of individuals who were at the university who knew the names of things and the shape of things, the shape of the world, whatever, or however he puts it, in real magic. And I love that idea of, they were this much more powerful, in which case the Arcanum was a strong brandy, as to now it's well-watered wine, where you have, even masters don't have a real grasp on, 5 different elements, right? They might know the name of fire or the name of, a couple of things, the name of iron, but not of everything. And It sounds like these guys kind of had a mastery of most everything.
Or at least that's what they were gunning for. Like you get the very clear sense that Elodin looks at what they currently do at the university as fucking piddly shit. That they're wasting it. They're just like, like you would think like if he was really had his druthers, like all this fucking book learning shit and like the mathematics and all that kind of stuff, he'd be like, go learn that on your own. Go to a school somewhere else. This is where we learn fucking magic. And that's what we're doing here. We're learning magic. And so like
it also seems deeper than that. Like not just the piddly magic that Sigildry and the different things he's been learning so far, but this naming is a much deeper and more pronounced magic.
Yeah.
Something more powerful.
Yeah, it's what he even says. He's like, they taught a few students slowly, carefully encouraging them towards power and wisdom in magic, real magic. Same way Kvothe describes, like when he's like, calling the name of wind, he's like, that's real magic. Like, I mean, to me, it's all magic, but, to like Elodin and Kvothe, they're like, no, fuck calling names, that's fucking the real magic. So,
well, everything else is explained in a scientific way.
Yeah.
All the other lighter magics, but the naming, there's no explanation for it, at least not in words, as Elodin kind of alludes to at this point.
Yeah.
I like the example that he gives. It kind of helped me to understand a little bit bigger, how he leads people into this, how Elodin can lead Kvothe into understanding its larger, in terms of trying to understand the names of things, because he calls this boy Nathan. Nathan comes, he gives him his robe, says, take that somewhere. And then, do you see, the names we call each other are not names, but they have some power nonetheless. And then Kvothe's like, that's not magic. He had to listen to you. You're a master. And you're a Raylar. You called the wind, and the wind listened. And I just like the idea of that is, kind of what he's gunning for is, we all have this power within us. It's just a matter of understanding that it's accessible. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and he uses the
an
analogy of like, that kid has to listen to me because I'm the master. And he's like, yeah, you're the master of the fucking name of wind. The wind has to listen to you because you're the master of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
like, stop kind of cock blocking yourself, basically.
Yeah.
Like you're putting a ceiling above yourself that doesn't need to be there.
I do want to mention, because I've every time this has come up, there's numerous times where I've wanted to bring this up, and I forget every time, so I want to make sure I do this time. Elodin has every time Elodin interacts with a student, like in this kind of manner, where he's like, hey, Nathan, come here. Or like he calls like a kid, like when he's teaching the class on naming, he has some young kid come in the class and like catch a ball, when he has them like do the, like, all right, I'm going to throw a ball and like do all the mathematical fucking calculations to see where the ball's going to land. And they're all doing those mathematical calculations. And then he's like, okay, you guys got everything? And he's like, all right. And he calls some kid in, and he's like, all right, here, stand here. And then he throws him the ball, and the kid catches it. And he's like, see? It's like, you guys, all those calculations you guys were doing, you couldn't come up with where that ball was going to land. But with him, I just threw it to him, and he immediately knew where it was going to land and caught it. And so, but he calls that kid's name. Like when he's in the rookery, and he's talking to those people, he fucking calls their name. When he's walking to the rookery, he mentions a student's name that he's walking. He seems to know everybody. And you're talking about the teacher who doesn't really teach any classes. He fucking sleeping through admissions. Like, this is the guy that should be the last person to know who every single person is. He's not that kind of fucking teacher. He's not. He doesn't have a relationship with everybody. I think this is Rothfuss subtly showing us how powerful Elodin is, and how, like, this is also like he's able to know Kvothe does events in Kvothe's life, like when he talks about the spades, when Kvothe messes up in a card game with Sim and Will and Minette, and Elodin relays that to him later on, or when he's like spit for luck, or the 7 words. Like, Elodin seems to know things at a different level. He knows everybody's names. He knows what Kvothe has done in his life. Like, he knows things on a deeper level, and I think this is just another hint at how fucking in tune Elodin is with his naming.
Yeah, I picked up on that, at least just right now. Not right now, but when I was reading this chapter and he called that kid, and compared it to Kvothe knowing the name of the wind, I did pick up on that he's like, he's basically saying, I know this kid's name not because I've met the kid. I know it like you know the name of the wind. Yeah, I think that goes much deeper. He probably knows everybody's name.
Well, and I love how that proceeds, because then he says, Kvothe is like, well, I decided to take a different tack. How did I call the wind if I didn't know how? And Elodin's like, that is an excellent question. that's one of those moments that kind of get you to like mentally sit up in your seat. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, it kind of got me like, oh, this is going to be good.
And
then he goes into the two minds.
And it's also the first time we see like a Loden like enthusiastic about being a teacher.
Yeah.
Like this is like all the rest of the time it's like, get away from me, leave me alone. He's like, but then when he's talking about the name of the wind and he's like got someone who's called the name of the wind and now he gets to talk to someone who's, you know, who's shown power, the kind of power that he's interested in. Then he's like, finally I got a student that's worth my time, worth my fucking, you know, worth all the, you know, I'm a fucking bad motherfucker and like these kids are fucking wasting my time, but this kid showed something, and so you see why he's a teacher. He is enthusiastic about it, but he doesn't care about all the other bullshit. This is what he's into.
I think that's definitely a good point. I think that's a big part of why he's so bored all the time. He's just kind of like, you know, because he doesn't have something to rise to the occasion. He doesn't have someone to teach, it seems.
He's like, get on my fucking level, motherfuckers.
Well, it seems like I guess the last person that is stuck in a fucking cell.
Yeah.
Losing his mind. Like, you know, they're in me type shit, unfortunately.
And I'm sure there was probably other people. It's just he's now, you know, after fucking, you know, that student going crack probably made him a little gun shy too. Because he starts teaching again after Kvothe fucking gets him all revved up, and then he starts fucking teaching naming again.
Isn't there a mention that naming, that Loden hasn't taught a class in a long time? And I wonder, you know, if there's been, I don't know that, you know, you can answer this, but, you know, like that guy that's in the crookery and Cracked, was that guy on Kvothe's level? Was he on a Loden's level? He
was an arcanist. Kvothe. He was a giller. So he was someone that had gone all the way through the school and got his gilder. So he was a giller. He was an arcanist. He was like, you know, just below a master. Like he'd already gone through the school, but now he's like a, you know, a graduate student teacher.
I meant on the level of Kvothe, in that Kvothe hasn't been taught anything and can name.
Yeah, we can't know
is
that.
This guy? Yeah, no.
It doesn't say like what his but like if you're a fucking giller, you're fucking powerful. Period.
My curiosity is not about the guy that's cracked. My curiosity is Kvothe on another level?
Obviously, yeah.
Is he striking a Loden's interest because he's a namer to the nth degree that a Loden hasn't seen since himself?
You know, possibly. I mean,
like
yeah. I mean, he's clearly us. It's clear. I mean, a Loden doesn't say it, but yeah, I'm sure everybody realizes Kvothe's a bad motherfucker.
Well, there was also a Kvothe named Auri.
Yeah,
and a Loden witnessed that. There were a couple instances where he witnessed Kvothe's abilities in a couple of different ways.
Yeah, he sees him. Sees him at the House of the Wind, staring at the wind and shit like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and he jumped off the building when Loden told him to. So you know, he's got that allegiance at least. He's got that loyalty seed within him.
Yeah. Except for that was the dumbest thing I've ever seen. Ever.
Yeah, it's dude. Again, I mean, he's my favorite character. I think this dude's tremendous. Oh, what I was gonna say was, what was the class? There was a class that before he was teaching. It was like high maths or something like that.
Unlikely maths.
Okay,
where's
so it was
the
just listed
class?
on there.
Where's the
Everywhere.
class? Everywhere. What time now?
So I think even in that's an attempt. That's an attempt he's making to at least plant a seed in people's minds of what naming is. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like because that is kind of the sense. It's everywhere, and it's you know, it's not easy to find. And you know, I think just even in that sense, what Rothfuss is doing through all of that is he's building out a Loden in a massive way, and he's incorporating the way that he is in a lot of different little aspects where we get to experience him, and even just that sense. I think that's even an attempt he was making then, and he's probably frustrated that he didn't have students at that time as well.
I also like when he's talks about like he's like, you were in no real danger of being expelled. You're not the first student to call the name of the wind in anger, though you are the first in several years.
Yeah.
Some strong emotion usually wakes a sleeping mind for the first time. He smiled. The name of the wind came to me when I was arguing with Elxadal. When I shouted it, his braziers exploded in a cloud of burning ash and cinder. He chuckled. What did he do to make you so angry? He refused to teach me the advanced bindings. I was only 14 and in Elir. He told me I would have to wait until I was Relar. I love that aspect of you get a load and just getting fucking pissed because this guy's holding back knowledge that he wants to know, and he gets so fucking pissed he calls the name of the wind against one of the masters. Blows up his fucking braziers.
And that's another one that leads into a reason to be excited about book 2 is Kvothe about to get access to these advanced bindings and this additional information. It's unlocking things.
As well as other secrets.
But one thing we did kind of skip over that I thought was pretty great. He asks Elodin, what did you do? I can't remember what you whispered to me. It was a name. It was a name that settled the angry bear, eased it back to sleep. But it is not sleeping so soundly now. We need to rouse it slowly and bring it under your control. Which I thought that was really interesting because that's kind of telling us what we were seeing before. He called the name of the wind. He was seeing the name of the wind. So it was already starting to awaken within him, which is interesting because the whole idea is this sleeping mind, right? So this sleeping mind is awakening within Kvothe, and he's seeing it gradually. It's fucking great. The conjuring of it, or the sort of cultivation of it that Rothfuss insinuates is great, and so that creates the idea now that it's living within him. So he will see it again. He will name the wind again. It's a matter of getting more and more control over it. And that's exactly what ends up playing out for us as we read through the books. But it's not like it happens 2 chapters from now.
Yeah.
Rothfuss is really, really, he has a very reasoned and patient approach in how he feeds it back to us, which is fucking great. Because he kind of
That's a great way of describing it. A patient and reasoned approach. I like that.
Well, it's great because it takes so long to get it the next time that we kind of forget about it until the moment we're reminded, then we immediately remember it, but we kind of forget. It happens a lot, man. I forget about the university, and he reminds us. In these chapters, I kind of forgot about where we were, and then we get back to it. It's really, really tremendous.
The last 2 parts that I have of interest is when he talks about he learns, okay, there's secrets. Then he asks if he can get back in the archives. Can't get back in there, but then he's like, all right, I got a secret for you. What about the stone door in the archives? And in a lone laugh, oh no, you don't aim for small secrets, do you? He clapped me on the back as if I'd made an especially good joke. Valeritas, God. I can still remember what it was like standing down there looking at the door, wondering. He laughed again. Merciful Telu, it almost killed me. No, you don't get to go behind the 4-plate door. But, since you are Relar, he's like, I will admit that it exists. He gave me a solemn wink. So, we talked about before, I think this is not only when he's like, it almost killed me, I think he's being literal. He went behind the door, he met King Phasia, and almost was killed by King Phasia. I think this is likely what fucking cracked Elodin and his student is going behind the door. Because he's not just no, you don't get to know what's behind the 4-plate door. He says, no, you don't get to go behind the 4-plate door. So I think there is a way behind the 4-plate door. Elodin's been behind it. And so I think Kvothe is going to figure that out and go behind there. So I think it's baked into the cake because, he's got to rescue the princesses from the Barrow King. It's almost certainly that the Barrow King is behind the 4-plate door.
I believe in the Mario Brothers theory, and this is how it holds up.
Yeah.
So yeah, it has to work. There is a part
especially
here, though.
because Elodin is Luigi, so Elodin maybe goes with Kvothe.
Yeah. Well, so there is a part here that I did kind of want to deal with a little bit because first, since you are a Raylar, I will admit that it exists. So when I've read that in the past, I just kind of thought it was kind of an interesting, almost like a comic relief type moment in a way. But this time around, it kind of made me feel like, all right, so what is it that we think does exist that actually doesn't? Because that's what I feel like he's hinting at when he says that it does actually exist. Well, clearly it exists. He sees it. You stand in front of it, Valeritas, whatever, and the four plates, people see it. People know it's there. There's details about it that are described, but it kind of hints to me that there are certain things in the world that are illusions that aren't real. That hint at an unreality or a certain or a supposed reality that aren't actually real. I hadn't read it that way before. That's why I was kind of interested in just at least bringing it up.
Yeah, I mean, if that's the case, I don't know. I don't have any other examples, but I've always taken it as him being his fucking quirky self and being like, hey, well, now that you are a Relar, I'll admit to the obvious thing that fucking it exists. Like,
well,
I'm just taking it as a quirky thing, not a deeper thing. I can't think of anything else that, in the way that you're describing, I can't think of anything else.
That's it. I thought that was interesting, Tim. The way I read it was that he's talking about the Chandrian, the demons, or all the different the Adem. No, the Amir. Excuse me, the Amir. The things that they're not talking, that they're not admitting to existing, and what Dan maybe believes that the information that they're trying to pull from the archives and so on and so forth, that he's saying, okay, well, now that you're Relar, I can admit to you that certain things that we always say don't exist actually do.
So, like in this case, it would be Phasia exists, the Amir exist, the Chandrian exist. Yeah. So, I mean, that's right. A whole lot. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I love the way Elodin speaks, man. I love the back and forth when Kvothe says, I still don't understand about names. I will teach you to understand. The nature of names cannot be described, only experienced and understood. I think that's just like a tremendous way to sort of what we talked about earlier, which is, like what he's been trying to make people see is that you can allow it to come to you. Stop trying so hard. Stop grabbing at my tits. I always come back to that because it's such a great example of that, allowing it rather than, trying to grasp for it. Because when you try to grasp for it, like he does with the, whatever that thing's called, the poppy seed or whatever that's another great example where he's grabbing for the thing that's floating in the air.
Yeah.
And then he finally stops and it literally goes in his mouth. He's all choking on it and shit. They're great, visual metaphors, man. And, they work out perfectly, especially for it to be done through Elodin as well.
So when he starts talking and trying to describe the color blue, did you guys remember the homage that Rothfuss is paying there to that movie with Cher, Mask?
No, I've never watched this movie. I cannot.
You never seen the movie Mask?
No.
I just remember the dude's awful face. That's all I mean, that's all I remember.
And if you remember, he dates
Corky or something. Is it Corky? Is that his name? Something like that.
I don't remember what his name is, but he's got a girlfriend that's blind, and so he's trying to.
That's right.
He's trying to explain to his blind girlfriend color, and so he gives her a rock that he takes out of a really hot. I think it's a hot pot of water and says, this is red. And then he gives her a cold one and says, this is blue. And it's like this profound moment for her to understand the colors. Anyway, that's what I
remember. What that reminds me of is there's a classic Family Guy clip where the blind girl's feeling his face, and she's like, "Oh my God, what is this?" And he's like, "But I'm beautiful on the inside." But she's like, "Yeah, but there's a limit. Like, what's this now?" And she's like feeling his massive bar atop his head, like above it, like where his eyebrows are. It's like, what is this? Like, it's fucking great. Oh man,
Yeah. Blue.
No, I do. I mean, the whole thing with words and trying to describe that, this does a great push and pull with Kvothe's need to try to understand things, and Kvothe has said before, you can describe everything. Can you describe, and then if you understand a thing, you can describe it. Can you describe all the things you understand? Of course. What color is that blue boy's shirt? Blue. What do you mean by blue? And then he's like, you got me. So the first example, he's like, you fucking got me. He doesn't apparently have a cold rock to hand to him to say, here's blue.
Right. And the way Rothfuss writes this part here is just, it's so fucking well written. Like he's like, it's a word. Words are pale shadows of forgotten names. As names have power, words have power. Words can light fire in the minds of men. Words can wring tears from the hardest hearts. There are 7 words that will make a person love you. There are 10 words that will break a strong man's will. But a word is nothing but a painting of a fire. A name is the fire itself. That's fucking Rothfuss, man. Like some of the fucking little sentences or paragraphs that he has, it's where it's like, that's amazing fucking writing.
Yeah. Well, but in this also, so I wonder, is someone going to say these 10 words to Kvothe? Is that what's going to turn him into Kote?
I forgot to look up. I wanted to look up when Elodin was doing his little step, slide, and then he ran into that big fucking, dude working at the crookery, and then he fucking dressed him down and scared the shit out of him. And kind of broke his will, where he's just fucking bowing and scraping. I was like, I wonder if he said fucking 10 words to him there, but I didn't remember to look it up.
Yeah, I was curious because I was like, I wonder if this is just foreshadowing towards a 10-word statement that's gonna break someone.
Yeah, it could.
But I also like where you went with or where he continued to go with Kvothe. My head was swimming by this point. I still don't understand. And Elodin lays a hand on his shoulder. Using words to talk of words is like using a pencil to draw a picture of itself on itself. Impossible, confusing, frustrating. And then that's where he lifts his hands high above his head as if stretching for the sky. But there are other ways to understanding. Laughing, he shouted, laughing like a child, and he throws both arms to the cloudless arch of sky above, still laughing. Look! Blue, blue, blue. It's so great. I just like picturing this dude. That is a master. That's the most powerful guy at the university, and all these students walking around, seeing this guy just pointing at the sky, yelling like a fucking 3-year-old. It's pretty great.
So
yeah, again, you picture him kind of like dancing. It's another one of these visuals where he doesn't even need to say a lot. You know the character already, and he starts going to point at the sky. But I just picture him dancing and skipping and screaming.
I mean, I guess you can kind of also read that as like the power is everywhere and the opportunities are endless, right? This is blue, but we point to something else and learn the name of it and have control over it, bro. Go for it. Like Neo with the Matrix, like understand all of it. The shape of things, the names of things, like, and control everything as long as you allow yourself to, tap into the chi, as we've talked about. Drink his tea and whatever. Whatever you get there,
Okay, well, let's do one more. Chapter 87 is titled Winter. In this chapter, Will, Sim, and Kvothe are drinking together at Anchors, where Kvothe declares his love for Sim. Kvothe heads back to the university and meets up with Auri. He gives her a bottle of wine, and she gives him a ring that holds secrets. They have dinner, and then upon request, Auri allows Kvothe to explore deep into her underthing. guys?
Yeah, so it's good. Like they're with the boys hanging tough again, and it's good that I love the fact that every time Kvothe has an interaction with Elodin, like it almost always follows up with the next part is Kvothe being like, yeah, so this dude's crazy as fuck.
He's
This
crazy.
dude's insane. Like, I'm always reading these chapters and I'm like, man, this dude, I love this dude. And Kavothe's always like, this dude's fucking off his rocker.
Yeah.
And blue,
yeah, I'm
blue, blue.
This guy's brilliant. And then, Kvothe every time he's like, this dude's completely out of his mind. This is a waste of my time. He's like, he doesn't know how to teach. I'm not learning anything. It sounds great. Actually, I think he even says, I'm not saying that he isn't intelligent, and I've seen him do things that I can't begin to explain, but he talks in circles about names and words and power. It sounds good while he's saying it, but it doesn't really mean anything, which is hilarious. So he's like, he's missing it.
Yeah.
He keeps missing it over and over and over again.
Yeah, and then, Sim hears that he's still going to get whipped, and Sim's like, I don't care, it's barbaric. And then, he slams his fist on the ground, knocks over a beer, scrambled to his feet, and tried to keep it from spilling to the floor with his hands. I love those added touches of Rothfuss puts in there where like Sims like fucking slams his fists on the ground, knocks over beer, and then it's like, god damn it, just fucking like trying to scoop it up with his hands and shit. Like those are just nice little touches that he puts in that make the scenes more true to life.
Yeah.
Well,
thanks, Dan.
It's interesting.
The reaction of Kvothe just like losing his shit over it.
Yeah.
Well, when they brought up the whipping, I'm like, oh shit, I forgot he was getting whipped.
Yeah.
Like I forgot until they mentioned it, and then it's like, oh, so shit, okay, he's getting whipped again, which he doesn't really give a fuck. So it doesn't really, we don't feel like he's getting screwed over or anything because it doesn't really affect him.
I'm surprised, Tim, that you weren't reminded by everybody singing Ambrose's song at the Alien about him being whipped again.
Wait, what?
Ambrose's song. You're making me explain it. That's why it's not funny, Tim. Ambrose's song that's about how he gets whipped by being funny and
quick
I know it's
whipping.
about him.
Jokes are better when they're explained, so explain it more.
Yeah.
But
well, Tim didn't remember, so that's what I was.
Well, you're talking about he says something about getting whipped, but that already happened. This is happening after the song.
Yeah, so. And nobody's singing the song too, so that's the second part of the joke. But whatever, we'll move on.
Yeah, no, it was hilarious.
Yeah, I guess we have to.
I thought it was hilarious.
You have to reel me back in.
But yeah, and then I like that when he's like, I love you, Sim. And then sometimes I think you're the only honest person I know. He's like, you're drunk. No, it's the truth. You're a good person. Better than I'll ever be. But you do, because that is Sim. Like, you get that feeling of Sim is like, he's naive and innocent, but he's just a genuinely fucking really good person. And like to the point where like he can't even, badmouth another person. Like he hints around it. Like they talk about I think in a couple chapters coming up. But like he's just a genuinely fucking good person, and it's written. Kvothe mentions it explicitly, but it's obvious to everybody who reads it that he's just a really good dude.
It does also make much more clear, if you weren't already there, how big a piece of shit Ambrose is.
Yeah.
Because he really fucking hates Ambrose.
Yeah.
Which, and he's genuinely is a good person. So the fact that he actually, like, really despises Ambrose really says a lot.
Yeah, and then he goes and he meets up with Auri, and he says, I was surprised to find Auri waiting for me on the roof despite the clear sky. Couple things on that. Like, one, it could be that he's surprised because it's a clear sky. It also could be that he's surprised that she's already waiting there for him. So it could be a sense that Auri knew Kvothe was coming, even though like they hadn't planned the meeting. It could have been that they planned the meeting and he's just surprised that she's chilling with a clear sky, but it also could be that he's surprised that she's up there when he hadn't planned to come see her. Because we've talked about that, where she seems to know when Kvothe is going to come meet her, even if he doesn't know that he's going to go meet her. She seems to have some kind of clairvoyance.
And I thought I was personally surprised when he does say that it's because that it's a clear night.
Well, he says despite,
and that she's out by herself, like she's that's out of character for her.
So you would think the moon must not be out, because it seems to be the moon is the big thing that scares her.
Oh, maybe that's
But
maybe that's
when he gives her the drink, though, we also get there's a few different situations here where you get the further hint that she has some kind of nobility, where she gets the drink from him and she's like, "Why? This is a princely gift." And and then like when they're eating, it was Auri sat cross-legged with her back straight and her hair fanning out to all sides. As always, her careful delicacy somehow made this makeshift meal on a rooftop seem like a formal dinner in a nobleman's hall. There's multiple mentions of that nobility aspect. Like I just, I'll keep bringing it up when we come across them, because it's mentioned so many times that I think it's just in your face that she has to be a fucking princess. It's just too in your face.
That one is very very direct, a very sort of regal. I mean, they even say nobleman's hall.
Yeah, I picked up on that one. I didn't pick up on the princely gift, but yeah definitely the other side of it, where she eats like a princess.
Yeah, and then she gives him a ring, and she tells it keeps secrets, and I like the fact that she's like, it doesn't tell them, it keeps them. She stepped close to me and took the ring, sliding it onto my finger. It's quite enough to have a secret, she chided me gently. Anything more would be greedy. It fits, I said, somewhat surprised. They're your secrets, she said, as if explaining something to a child. Who else would it fit? I love those aspects of her, where like it just shows like you really get it in her solo book and the little novella about her. Like, she is not just giving him fanciful gifts. There is a purpose to them. Like, it's very deliberate what she's doing. She does not think she's playing a game. She thinks she is giving him something purposeful. So, like, when he's like, it fits, she's like, yeah, of course. It's your fucking ring. What are you fucking talking about, you moron? Of course, who else would it fucking fit?
Why wouldn't it fit?
Yeah, that's a great little Auri moment. I like her, like when they go on and she talks about the mother owl that's moved in to where she's living, and she mentions that owls are wise, they are careful and patient. Wisdom precludes boldness, but then she says that is why owls make poor heroes, which I thought was kind of cool because that's not Kvothe.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, well. Yeah, like he's not. Yeah, exactly. Like he's not careful and patient, and which is why he's a hero.
Yeah,
especially when he's not careful and patient, he's heroic.
He makes brash decisions and very seldom uses wisdom and acts upon things in a logical or wise manner, especially when the cards are on the chips are on the line or whatever.
Yeah, he's usually
in.
When he's doing something heroic, he's not like just carefully planning shit out, and he's just reacting, and then it all just slides into place. But yeah, that was a nice touch. I also like the she talks about the leaves flying in. She's like, they settle in downings, so things are a rustle there, and we talked about how Russell is more than likely the one who fucking put the ruins to lock that grate down so that you can't open it, and so she specifically mentions Russell here. So it's a nice callback to our previous episode where we talked about Russell.
Yeah, he's just hanging out in there.
I'm glad she brought that back up for us. I would have forgot.
But I love, this is one of my favorite Auri moments, is he's like, I was wondering, Auri, would you mind showing me the underthing? Auri looked away, suddenly shy. Kvothe, I thought you were a gentleman, she said, tugging self-consciously at her ragged shirt. Imagine asking to see a girl's underthing, she said. She looked down, her hair hiding her face. And then it's like, Auri, I asked slowly, are you joking with me? She looked up and grinned. Yes, I am, she said proudly. Isn't it wonderful? That's such a fucking great fucking moment. It's like, it endears you to her so much, because like it's just like her reaction to her own joke. Like, isn't it wonderful? I'm making a joke with you.
It's like ridiculously awkward, like super duper awkward. And again, another Fitz type of joke, because it had to be explained. So
yeah,
or had to be pointed out that it's actually a joke.
It's
well, he thinks that she's getting ready to take off running. Yeah, he thinks that she's actually offended. There I go, further explaining the joke.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, it does work, because he's like, wait. He's like very careful to pick his next words. And then it occurs to him, wait, are you telling a joke? Are you telling joke? Yes, this is joke.
But then, when he does get under her underthing, and he's fucking tinkering around down there, and I like...
It's all up in there.
Yeah, and then I like the mystery behind it, because he doesn't understand what these things are, and then he talks about like there is one room had a pair of bricked up windows, despite the fact that we were at my best guess at least 50 feet below ground. So clearly, the city was above ground at one time, but it's not anymore. And it's got old machines and stuff that he doesn't even know what they do. He has no clue what they could be used for, and they've been there for uncounted centuries.
Hey Dan, did it say melted machinery?
Some of them, yeah.
Oh, really?
It's yeah, that was weird. Because I don't have an explanation for that. I mean, that's not Chandrian.
It's all really interesting, because it's like, well, okay, so this was like, some of it reads like they're almost like they're classrooms. Yeah, it's really interesting in terms of, I mean, where it's located. Number one is that it's all underground. It's all clearly very old, and then it's like, there's huge machines. There's a water wheel. I mean, to have that underground it's very interesting.
Yeah, because he's like, many of the huge machines were beyond identifying, looking more melted than rusted. And so, yeah, it gives the clear sense that something major fucking happened here. And the clear thing to tie that to is the fucking Chandrian destroying the fucking 7 cities. Because they would not only... You would have to go back 5,000 years to have a civilization more advanced than they are. These are the people that created the Fae. These are gods among men. Like, they're the only ones that would be creating things more advanced than the world 5,000 years later. So, like, he doesn't even know what these machines do. And you have just, like, they're 50 feet underground, but buried underground. Well, obviously they weren't underground when this shit was made. So, like, I think it's clear that they're talking about a city that was destroyed by the Chandrian.
It also makes me think, the door has something to do with it. Like something went down and got shut behind the door, and now they had to build on top of this once inhabited area.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure the 4-plate door is underground. So, yeah, Could be.
It's also, I thought there was a point, and now I'm having trouble finding it, but I thought there was a point where he mentioned, I had basically what he was seeing was so surprising to him that he almost forgot his intention to go down there in the first place. Which we know, having read the book, what his intention was, but it just sort of hinted at here that he had some other intention. You know what I mean?
Well, it goes back to what he when he was talking with. It was in Kilvin's class after they saw the demonstration, and he's talking to, was it Manette or whoever was showing him, or what was kind of his teacher or student teacher, and he gets him to admit that there is another way into the.
Well, that comes up later in this chapter. What Tim's talking about, he's like, her enthusiasm was infectious, and I soon lost myself in the excitement of the moment, ignoring my original reasons for wanting to explore the tunnels. There's nothing quite so delightfully mysterious as a secret in your own backyard. So, like, he forgets and then, like, which will come up to in chapter 89, is when he discovers the entrance to the archives. Yeah.
Ah, interesting. Yeah, and we were just reminded of that because we didn't really touch on it, but when he's talking to Elode and he's like, "Oh, secret things. Like, will I get back in the archives?" Like, nope. That's Lauren's deal. That's not my deal.
Yeah.
Even though actually he does help him get back in the archives, but yeah, we get that reminder, and then 2 chapters later, we're getting back to that agenda of trying to get back in the archives.
That's such a great moment when he's like, look, if he does something fucked up, you can cut off his hands. And Lauren's like, okay, all right, he can come in. And Kvothe's like, what the hell? What the hell, man?
Yeah,
and he's like, what? Are you going to do something stupid?
Like, well, no.
It's like, okay, then. It'll be fine.
Yeah, he's like, no, I'm not intending to. He's just like, fuck, man. Yeah, that's great, man. They're like, I don't remember exactly what they were doing leading up to that, but I remember the whole thing seemed so odd. Like,
well,
and Kvothe on top of his roof, like banging on his window.
That was
like, what the fuck are you guys doing up here?
That was when Kvothe and Elodin are with Auri, and then Kvothe tells him the name of Auri, and so Kvothe's like, well, seems to me, it might be worth teaching you, so you can come take my class. And he's like, tells him to, it says something, and Kvothe's like, well, it might be hard, to be able to read these books. I'd love to read these books, but, I don't have access to the archives. And Elodin's like, what? You still don't have access to the archives? He's like, follow me. And then they go walking on the roofs, and then go knock on Lauren's fucking window on the roof.
Yeah. Yeah, it's quite a scene.
Go to Lauren's door. They go to his window on a roof, and and the best is like Lauren opens the window like nothing's amiss. Like this is just totally normal behavior from Elodin. It's like, yes, how can I help you?
So I'm gonna ruin the books because I found a deep and shattering hole in this chapter.
Okay.
Do you guys want to know what it is?
Yeah.
Or do you want to let it go?
No, I want to know what it is because I doubt it's a hole. Okay. But go ahead.
It's a huge hole. Will, Sim, and Kvothe at the beginning of this chapter are drinking at Anchors.
Okay.
So then they sit and they drink, and then finally, by the time Kvothe leaves, it's dark. But Kvothe says, I stopped by Anchors to get some stuff. He's at Anchors, and then he stops by Anchors. Just ruined the entire book for me.
He's quite, well, it starts out, he's quite mad, I said to Simon and Willem later that afternoon at the Aeolian.
At Anchors.
So they're at the Aeolian.
Oh, is it?
No, that's not what it says in my book.
What?
We got two different books here?
Yep.
That's weird.
Yeah, because it does say at Anchors in this book, in the Kindle.
What the fuck is going on with these two Okay, so the beginning of my book, he's quite mad, I said to Simon and Willem later that afternoon at the Aeolian. And then the scene plays out, and then after the dash mark on the next page, by the time I made it back to the university, it was fully dark. I stopped briefly at Anchors to pick up a few things. So you guys need to buy the book. Just do me a favor. Do all of us a favor. Buy the book. I own the book. So you can read about Mandrag. So you can, read it.
And not only
read
like
the book. We're doing a podcast
chapter 87
about the book.
In this one, they call it winter, and in your book, they call it something else.
They call it boldness.
But here's the thing. Like, I get why the Audible wouldn't be updated. So like that mistake has been updated in the print editions. Tim's clearly got a later print edition than the Audible was created. But why don't they update it in the fucking Kindle book? It's a digital book. It should be so simple to update.
You know what it is? We're in the middle of a Mandela effect. It's taking place right now.
Yeah.
Tomorrow we'll wake up. It'll probably say that they were at the Aeolian and
this is the
chapter's called Boldness.
Yeah,
this is the Bernstein Bears all over again.
By the time we get to episode 22, it's like no, his name's Alfred. Who's a Loden? What are you talking about? It's always been Alfred.
So important. That's why this is so important. Although it won't matter because it'll correct everything. That's what it does, right?
Alfred E. Loden.
We'll come back and we'll be like, I swear to God, dude, I said a Loden. I don't know how. I know what I said. And it's going to be like, I'll be listening to a podcast of myself saying something other than what I said.
That would be hilarious. So you go back and the whole time we've been calling him Alfred. And that's his name.
I know.
No, I'm telling you, it was a Loden.
I know for sure it was the Bernstein Bears. Yeah. I know for sure. There's no Bernstein. Yes.
Bernstein.
I'm very. Well, whatever. Yeah. It wasn't spelled like that.
Well,
it's a very
I've
odd
always
thing.
lived in the universe where it's Bernstein Bears, but you guys lived in a different universe than me. So you've joined my universe.
Bernstein. That's what I always remembered it being spelled as. And when I first heard about it and I went and looked it up, I'm like, wait, what? It's a trip. But it's also one of those things that you can kind of be lazy when you look at words like that. When you look at names like that, you can kind of be lazy because you think, in your mind, you kind of have an idea of what you think that's going to say. You know what I'm saying? But, clearly.
What about C-3PO Silver Leg?
I don't know. Like I've always looked at it as I think just people pronounce it differently. Like it's always been spelled the way it is, like the Stain. Like I don't
remember it being spelled that way. I don't remember it being spelled that way. Dan revised his upload. Dan's a cyborg anyway. He just fucking got revised to the new operating system.
Yeah.
So he just went into the AIN. Yeah.
But I think people say Bernstein.
But here's the deal. You guys need to read the book so you're not making all these mistakes. Fitz thinks he's finding holes. He's got a bad copy of the book.
No, he did find a hole. Like he found an actual hole. A hole to the point that Rothfuss had to correct it in updated version.
So I guess another typo. That's actually a worse typo.
Don't you guys think it's weird that this is like tonight we found 3 of these things? I'm telling you, it's Mandela.
I don't know about all that, but I will tell you in my book, which I'm looking at, well, the funny thing is, too, also the chapter title being different is quite interesting as well. Because what was yours? Winter? Winter's coming? Some shit like that?
Winter is coming.
I don't want to blow you guys' nips off, but Mandela is also dead. So there's no more Mandela effect.
So he was doing these things?
Yeah.
He was single-handedly doing these things?
His wizardry is gone from the world.
After unwinding apartheid, he had to change Bernstein Bears. Yeah. That's good.
Well, that's how I knew it was Mandrag. I just put 2 and 2 together. Mandrag, Mandela. It makes sense.
Well, it is interesting that we ran across this in 2 subsequent chapters, with the chapter heading being different, the location of where they were being different, and then also Mandrag not being mentioned and being mentioned in mine. It's very, well, not subsequent, but a couple of chapters apart. Quite interesting. And actually, the fire itself was the other chapter. Yeah, I'm just trying to remember. I'm wondering if all the chapter titles are the same. So I guess winter could just be we're literally coming into winter, but mine is boldness. I guess it is bold for him to decide to try to find a entrance into the archives. I guess that's what the boldness is.
The boldness is fucking trying to take a peek at fucking Auri's underthing.
Ah,
that would be bold.
That would be very bold.
Wonder, but you know what, Dan? Why winter?
Yeah, I don't know. That's probably why he changed it. Because, like, why the fuck winter?
He just threw that out there. I think he just call it winter for now.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and add Mandrake to the chapter before.
Yeah.
I forgot about him.
Yeah, maybe it was just a placeholder. I don't know. Typically that would forebode that we're coming.
I mean, it's kind of a spoiler that Mandrake is clearly not an important character because he was so unimportant that fucking he couldn't even remember him.
Yeah, he's like, I know there was 8 votes, but I can't come up with the other guy.
Fuck that dude. So it turns out Rothfuss was like, fuck that dude. And he was like, okay, fine, you fucking babies. You care about Mandrake? All right, I'll put him back in. There. Yeah, you don't like winter? Okay, it's fucking bag toss.
His sleeping mind was running the show there. He doesn't, his subconscious doesn't like Mandrake.
Oh, you caught me. He was fucking at Anchors and he went back to Anchors. Oh, you caught me. All right, fucking change that. It's like, Jesus Christ, man. I was finishing the book. I was at the very end of it. I was sleep deprived. I had a lot of shit going on. Get off my back.
What are you, my publisher?
Yeah.
I don't respond. I
pay a lot of money to an editor. That's her fucking fault. You want to fucking blame someone? Blame her. Get off my fucking back. This is why you don't have a third book. You guys are fucking always poking holes in my shit, and it's fucking stressful.
Where would Patty be without us? Good old Patty.
Oh man,
dropping the ball.
Wait till he listens to this podcast. There's gonna be so many edits to all these books. He's gonna have to fucking fill in so many holes. Like the whole scene with Kvothe fucking binding the wind to his lungs. That's gone. He's gonna do something else. Like
take it out.
Yeah.
I'll tell you this, Dan. When Rothfuss, when he does listen to our podcast, gonna blow his fucking nips off. That's why.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Nips are
He's gonna
off.
need. There's gonna be. Should come out with a product just to protect those nips.
Yeah.
You know, some type of tissued brassiere or something that just protects. The nips.
we should have a warning at the beginning of each episode, like, hey, look, strap on your diapers, throw some tape on them nips, and get ready.
Get your nipple thimbles on.
Yeah.
I think we did actually mention that about your diaper on this one. There's going to be a lot of shit flying around on this one. Make sure you warn your family members.
Fucking tape. Throw some tape on them nips. Might as well get ready for a marathon. Throw some tape on like you're ready to run a marathon.
Get your shit umbrella and get ready for the shit storm, boys.
Ugh, shit umbrella. Man, that's a gross image.
What have we got coming up, Dan?
We got the end of the book. End of the book. So we have the skin dancer. We run into the interlude next, and the skin dancer is going to come in and fucking do his song and dance. And then Kvothe's going to finish up his time at the university for this book. And we learn that Bast is responsible for Chronicler being there.
Any typos in these next few chapters?
Lots.
That you know of. Oh, okay. Interesting.
Yeah, it just gets worse from
Looking
here
forward to that.
at the end of the book. It just it's all downhill. Like fucking all the chapter titles are different in every book. Like everybody's got a different chapter title.
Oh, old Patty does not finish strong, does he? We learned. We thought we learned that because book 3 hasn't come out, And we're finding out now that it happened. We should have known in book 1.
Yeah, it set a bad precedent because he's like, he made all these mistakes at the end of the book, and he's like, oh, what's it matter? I can fix it in post. If I can just ship it out, and I'll fix it later on. If I fucked up, the chapter name's stupid. Okay, we'll change it. We'll just change it. Oh, man, I forgot Mandrake. Okay, we'll put him in.
Just not on the Kindle version. On digital form,
Yeah.
we won't do that.
Well, that's
We'll print
expensive.
Many different.
You know how many
copies.
digital versions are, and you have to pay money to fix it in every single one. So expensive.
Every single one.
Yeah. It's way cheaper to do it in physical book copies.
That's logically consistent.
Yeah. But yeah. So we will finish
would you say,
up book 1 on the next episode.
Would you say this next episode is a shit your pants nipple blowing episode?
Nah, it's real boring.
Oh, okay, so no nipple. All right, so nipples and poops, yeah, they'll be under control.
Yeah.
No diapers, no finger nipples necessary.
No, it's really
finger
boring.
nipples, yes. Finger nipples, yes, because
I'm
there's
sorry.
there's typos on the pages, so you're gonna need to go back and forth.
Yeah.
No nipple thimbles. No nipple thimbles necessary. That's what I meant.
You're gonna be. It's definitely. I mean, like, I hate to end on a low note, but it's definitely gonna be our worst episode by far.
Hey, we can only go up from there.
Yeah.
Well, look, since we haven't done it yet, I'll get out. I'll dust off the Vibrams with no toes, with the toes cut out. I'll bring those out. We'll get it going.
Okay.
I'll grip the floor real well while we speak.
Yeah,
That's
we'll add in a lot of special moments. Like,
Yeah, well, we can do all that in post, right? We'll
Yeah.
just do that in post.
Yeah.
It's not going to get on every digital copy, though. I can tell you that.
You know what? Since the book ends on such
Way too much
a
time.
flat note and there's not really much that goes on, we'll just talk about a different book. We'll talk about
Okay.
about
that's a
the
good idea.
end of a different book that's more entertaining.
Jesus. Oh, the
How about
controversy.
Boxcar Children.
Wait, who?
Boxcar Children?
I don't know
That's
what that is.
It's a good one.
But yeah, I think this will definitely be our longest one, and the next one might be a long one too. But we might as well finish up with 2 long ones to finish up this book, and we'll dive into book 2 from there.
We can pretty much say whatever we want at this point because people stopped listening about 2 hours ago, I think.
No, they're fucking not. Maybe to you guys, everybody hangs on my word. I mean, that's just fucking. I don't know. That's always been my life. Everybody's always hung on my words, and that's clearly what the audience does as well. But humbly, they humbly hang on my words because I'm very humble.
Dan, you should.
Wait, they
when
do?
you're editing down, when you're editing down this episode, you should, or all the episodes really, you should put me and Tim in the left ear, and then yourself in the right, so people can just fade the speakers over to one side and just listen to you. They don't have to listen to me.
That is a good point.
Yeah, that's a really great idea for the delivery.
I
of this
think
audio.
one of
Yeah,
what
hell of a
we should do.
podcast.
That won't
I
frustrate
think
anybody.
I'll release the podcast in 2 forms. One where it's all 3 of us, and then one where it's just me.
Yeah, just you, and then you can do commentary over, like, instead of our voices.
Yeah.
Tim and Nick said
Yeah.
something stupid here about this or that.
All right, in this part, Tim was like, blah, 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 actually.
Actually,
Well, my vote is this will only be released on 8-track and vinyl
Yeah.
recordings.
Yeah,
That's it.
yeah, that's the way to get that shit out there. Like, all right, we're doing a podcast, 8-track. Like,
8-track and
hold on,
reel to
what?
reel. That's it. You don't have a reel to reel? Dude, you need to get with the game, bro.
Get with the age.
We'll have a
Are you living in?
we'll have a laser
you living
disc.
in the fucking 2020s, get in the 1980s, man.
Get your
What?
ass over to Service Merchandise and get an 8-track player.
We'll do laser disc only with no visuals. It's like a shit ton of them too. We like really spread that sound out. So each episode is like 3 laser discs. You got to get up and take them out.
all our episodes are on VHS, but the screen is just snow because it's just audio. Like, so it's like, why even put it on VHS? Like, there's no video.
Like, well, we recorded it. We recorded it all digitally, but then we played it and recorded it onto VHS.
With no video, though. Like, so it makes no sense whatsoever. Oh, man.
Just have the video is just the camera pointed at your laptop. Playing the recording.
I will.
You get the visual.
I will point. Yeah, I will just have my camera phone and I will point it at the computer screen so they can just see the lines that the audio makes on the audio recordings. Yeah, so they can watch that. Like, oh, look at it! Look at the lines jumping. I like this.
Dang!
Like, why didn't you just put
Tim
out
just
the
had
digital?
a really nice peak there.
Why didn't you just put out the digital audio file? You don't get it. You don't get art.
Yeah. You don't get it. You don't get it, you stupid idiot.
You don't get our art. You don't get my art.
So, yeah, all that part will just be like, Tim, blah, 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 stuff, saying things. And Fitz is like, Telu, angels, Telu.
True to life.
All right. I think that'll do it for this long ass episode. Fucking shove it in your face. Enjoy it.
Right on.
All right. Peace out.
Next time, guys.
Yeah.